Started today with a pretty sad story. This is really just, a very direct result of Biden's policies, the type of people that have been able to come into this country totally unvetted. And an innocent woman was set on fire in a subway in New York City, which is just horrible. It's something that you'd expect to have happen in a third world country, except it seems to be worse than what actually happens in third world countries. So apparently this guy was deported previously. Sebastian Zapata, he's a migrant from Guatemala. I'm not going to be like Trump and say that, everyone coming over is bad, though he doesn't really quite say that, but he can make it sound that way. But the point is that when you have an unvetted border, anyone can come in. And even if most of the people coming in are good, without vetting and without a secure border, then you're going to get the rapists, the murderers, the criminals. Trump claimed that they're emptying out the insane asylums, that they were emptying out prisons. And it sounds a little far-fetched, but right now I think this is pretty direct evidence that they have indeed emptied out the prisons and the mental asylums to send people to here.
Horrible.
These images are just horrible.
Yeah.
The response didn't seem very great either. I think maybe the fact that this person wasn't receiving real help was...
The response in itself made me believe this wasn't real at first, just by how absolutely stagnant everyone else around.
By.
Now, I understand there's something called the bystander product or like effect that just kind of make when people are in large groups, they're kind of waiting for someone else to kind of step in, which just kind of also reinforces what Daniel Penny just went through. This man is a fucking hero because he stops disgusting animals like this. Who's fanning the flames? Is that the person who's responsible for this?
No.
I take that as a guilty party. Some idiot is doing that.
From what I heard, the guilty guy who did this was just sitting on a bench watching it calmly. And at one point, a cop asked him to leave, and he left.
What?
And that was...
Where was he at? Where was the man arrested?
I think he was arrested on a bench that might be like just behind where this camera shot is taken from, so we probably can't see him in this video. But he was very nearby, and he was watching it. So it's absolutely sad. I mean, and what this is leading to, there's a lot of traffic in New York City because so many people are afraid to take the subways because they don't feel safe on there. I mean, even it can be dangerous for single men. So what are single women supposed to feel like on the subway?
And the subway, unlike a bus, there's no one where you can yell to stop it. You are trapped, confined in a space. And how many occasions have like a woman been sexually assaulted there? Or boom. I couldn't even imagine something like being lit on fire was even a possibility.
Well, I heard overall crime on the subways is down like 15%, but homicides are up 200%. I think felonious assault might be up like 44%. So,
and again, how hard is it to own and carry a concealed weapon in New York?
It's damn near impossible.
Impossible. It's unfortunate, especially for like a woman.
It is completely impossible to believe the statistics either, because nobody bothers to report crime when the police officer didn't do anything. Like,
I can't believe that.
I was in a Waffle House and I heard a first-hand account of a woman who'd been to a New York City subway. She said that a man walked up and punched her in the face outside of a train, waiting on a train. And there was a cop there, and she's like motioning to the cop like, hey, like this man just punched me in the face. And the cop just tried to ignore her, and she kept like flagging down the cop. And he finally grabbed the person who punched her, and he escorted him up to the street. Yeah. So the punishment for assaulting somebody in front of a cop is to get escorted to the street.
And I wouldn't have wanted to believe that, but watching that video and how absolutely ineffectual that cop was, because even prior to this, we were having a brief conversation, but man, take your jacket off, give her a bear hug with the jacket, suffocate the fire. I mean, push her down, giving her concussion isn't going to be as bad as saving her life. Knock her down, roll her over a few times, like tackle her and roll her, like roll with her. Like, it's not hard to put up. That fire was not that intense. Like,
yeah, do something. Somebody do something.
I would have, absolutely. I would like to think I would have done something, having played with it and knowing fire enough. Like, if you act fast enough, you yourself aren't going to get burned if you have clothes on. Like, I would have been 100%
those
sure of myself.
Those cops who walked by, they must have just been like, oh, we're just going to...
They're the most biggest cowards ever. They have enough gear on that they could have all just hugged her out and, like, rolled with her and put it out themselves. They should have risked the burns. That's what their job is to do, is it not? Like, risk the burns and put that fucking fire out yourself. You are not going to die. She's risking death right now. She probably is going to die.
They're probably they're probably trying to establish a perimeter or some dumb shit like that.
We can all agree right here, that cop
backup.
should be fired.
Oh, and criminally charged.
Yeah.
If not criminally charged with negligence.
There's no other word for that. Like,
Absolutely.
I
want him at least fired.
He might not be a firefighter, but that doesn't mean that he couldn't have done something. Like Dakota said, give him her jacket.
We can talk about how cowards citizens are, but they didn't take a job that upholds them to serve and protect.
And at minimum, he could have kept the guy from fanning the flames.
And thank God there's people like Daniel Penny that occasionally do ride the subways because like they think that people like him, like, man, there you go. He probably would have done something. And unfortunately, a Daniel Penny wasn't there that day. And that's sad.
Yeah. And this topic really runs well into the fact of Biden letting these people in. And now he's
and not only that, is when they are caught and tried and found guilty and put to death, their savior Biden comes in to protect him. He won't protect you if your house is burned in a fire or washed away in a hurricane, will he? No, but if you're found guilty for the most heinous crimes humans can commit.
Yeah, the most heinous crimes.
The most heinous crimes a human can commit, he'll save your life.
So this is a story right here we have about one of these most heinous crimes.
Yeah. Don't go into too much graphic details, but yeah.
I think people deserve to know.
Yeah, you're right.
I mean, this is a lot of people. The mainstream media is going to try to gloss over this.
You're right.
So where are you going to get your news?
We're here on Rumble. Yeah, we can be graphic.
So there's George Torres. He's a serial killer and rapist. In 2005, Torres murdered 2 little girls who lived in his neighborhood. 8-year-old Laura Hobbs and 9-year-old Crystal Tobias went out to play on their bicycles but didn't come home. By nightfall on Mother's Day, May 8th, 2005. On Mother's Day.
What a fucking monster.
Yeah.
Jesus fucking Christ. Put that motherfucker down.
The little girls' bodies were found the following day by Hobbs' father. Both girls had suffered fatal stab wounds to their necks and faces and were both raped by Torres. He also, in 2009, he also murdered a female naval officer.
What?
At a hall. He was sentenced to death by the federal government for the crimes, as well as receiving a 100-year sentence for the Illinois murders. Biden just commuted his death sentence.
Why is this man even bothered to be thought of? Why is he on the president's radar? I don't understand.
How does this come to the attention of the president of the United States?
Maybe I could see reviewing death row just to double check there's no one on there wrongfully. Maybe. But of all the people that you saved, is this one of them, guys? Holy fuck.
Yeah, also, I don't even need to go to that jury.
Fuck.
Look at this dude's mugshot. Like,
that's not a face of remorse. That's just
well,
lifeless.
I mean, that's definitely the face of, like, guilt
dead
and
eyes,
death. And, yeah.
just dead in the eyes.
Like, you can just...
Can you show it to the camera?
Yeah, hold up to your camera.
Yeah, what does that face tell you right there? That is not a man who looks innocent.
No, that's not nearly as crazy as some of the people I've seen. I made an entire bookmarks list for migrants that came illegally across the border and killed people. And I tried to see how many I could find in like a 30-minute period at one point, and I found a lot of people murdered by migrants, like
example,
crazy motherfuckers.
It's terrible. This next one is not as graphic, but Thomas Roberts kidnapped a young girl and her mother. He murdered the mother in front of her and then shot the 12-year-old Lexus before slitting her throat and dumping her body. Biden just commuted his death sentence. So I think they said he commuted like the death sentences of like 37 of the 40 people on death row. You don't get on death row for federal crimes by not doing something absolutely horrendous. Like
juries don't like killing people.
Yeah, you
can send away for life.
You can murder somebody and get life in prison. Like these people have done things worse than murder.
Yeah, horrible things to children. Like not just killing them, but worse than that. So like, yeah, man,
the fact that we've already spent over $1 million on these people's trials probably is already sick enough. But the fact that they can't finally end the cost to the taxpayer and give the victims justice.
Overall, I'm not a fan of places like Guantanamo Bay. But for people like that, I am, I guess. Like torture, and if you're found guilty for certain crimes like that, then I think you maybe death for sure. But maybe I am encouragement for
especially
torture,
not just
a torturous death,
but not just like eyewitnesses, but they have physical evidence that he raped these girls.
Yep.
Yeah. The worst.
If you dead to rights and he killed someone in 2009, like we can send him to a place where experts can meticulously kill him in extremely painful, methodical ways.
And I don't think it needs to be super secret.
Interesting opinion.
People should know what the punishment is.
There's just a place, like what is a place that we currently know of that we are treating people that way. Yeah, like would we have a problem knowing that these kinds of criminals would be sent there? I don't think so. As a mass populace, we have a problem with that. I think we'd be currently happier with that, like with those kind of criminals.
I think there's a lot of Karens around who
what I will say for that, that kind of punishment would discourage a lot of people.
Yeah, and guess what? Maybe there's
most people aren't going to do shit like that in the first place. But even the people that are going to do some shit like that might think twice.
In my world, there's a channel on C-SPAN that you can flip to 24/7 live, and you can see those people in those places
being tortured.
Yep. Maybe not being tortured. Maybe just the conditions they're in. They'll be kept in places in the desert with like no ceilings, just high walls, and there's out there in the desert left to the elements, cold nights and extremely hot days, and you don't maybe not see them tortured, but you can see them afterwards. You can see how they look afterwards.
I think that would actually be pretty chill. Like I would prefer that over having to make somebody's job be to torture these people.
Because I like
it's like you get a box. There's no food in the box.
For sure.
Sit out here till you die. Okay.
I also like
bye.
You can be tortured, but the people doing the torturing, they can know they have the immunity to get away with it, the amnesty to kind of stay. They're not going to be on camera while they torture, but you can be put back in that box on camera. You're going to be tortured if you hurt children. Sorry, we're going to split your nails with bamboos and like peel your eyelids off and sew your mouth together and stuff like that. Like, sorry.
I don't think you need to try to be as barbaric as the murderers, but at least like starving them to death over a month or something could be pretty good.
If you rape children, you're going to be raped. We're going to bring rapists to you and you're going to be raped. I don't care.
How are the other rapists still not like, where do they come from?
They're brought out of prisons.
Oh, didn't they all get the death penalty in your world?
No, these can be people who've raped other people.
You're saying not children.
Well, they're in jail. Like we're in jail. We know, we in prison. You can ask prison guards, like, hey, you know who's doing certain things.
Well, let's hear Kamala Harris's, and along with a lot of other Democrats. If you hear a Democrat argue this point, they might not. They're not going to defend the person that did it, but they'll probably say, you know how many people get killed in America by Americans? They're gonna brush that case aside. It's that classic deflection.
It's that classic deflection. It's very political move.
Here's what Kamala Harris thinks about this.
Are undocumented immigrants that are the least likely to commit a crime.
Police report as many.
That's all I wanted to show.
What did she say? Can you just repeat what she said? It was very quick.
It's illegal aliens that are least likely to commit a crime. And I think that she was drunk and she knew that she was telling a bold-faced lie and she cackled to all high hell about it.
Well, no, she's telling the truth if you want to look at overall statistics. Like the percentage of murders, like they don't commit that high of a percentage of murders, but per capita they might be way higher. But overall,
They commit them in places like this where it's not even processed. The people don't report it. It doesn't
there's so much.
They are committing a hella crime in the places where they're being dropped off.
New York too. In New York, where it's just that raw, and it's just like, hey, this is New York City. That guy got robbed on the corner. Like, I can't imagine how much of that just goes undocumented.
When you live in a city where there's no justice, what's the point in reporting a crime?
Sure.
Yeah. Well, the lady that you were just talking about, Adam, the one that got punched in the face, she tried to report that crime. What did that police officer do?
A woman was lit on fire, and the police officer literally stood there and walked away.
Yeah, that's a different level. I mean, I think that this code comes back to the policy of 0-day bail.
The lady who got punched could have gone down to a police station or filed a report, but why would you want to? After the cop who witnessed it just laughed it off. And
he could have at least given a foot chase. Can you not pursue the guy or try to identify him?
They let him out. They walked the guy out to the street. That was the punishment. Wow. He got kicked out of that subway station for that minute. That was his punishment for assaulting somebody.
The police officer himself should have cuffed the guy and taken him in, and then it would have been a reported crime.
And processed him, but that's not what's encouraged around there. They're not encouraged to arrest every perpetrator. They're just encouraged to just stand there and
keep the peace.
Yeah, you can't keep assaulting somebody. Like maybe if this guy just started punching the woman over and over and over, the cop would have been like, "Hey, buddy, you got to slow down there."
But right. But yeah, I hope so, because now I don't know why if you watch that guy put that wood on fire. Like, hey, would the cop have stepped in?
But I
Or
think
we have popped on his radio and ran for backup or something.
But I think the homeless guy who can punch people, he just knows that, like, if I just punch a lady once, what's gonna happen?
The worst thing, I have to run away from a cop.
Yeah.
That's the worst case scenarios, and I disappear into a sea of
But on
people.
average, I probably just walk away. Like, that's usually what happens.
Probably,
I
yeah.
punch somebody and I walk away.
Crazy. I do a crazy thing. I shout something crazy. I punch someone. I continue to walk on crazy and shouting.
grab a
people just
handbag.
avoid me. Yeah. Grab a handbag. Yeah.
I leave my dirty needles on the ground. You know.
I set a person on fire, and I get to just casually walk away or sit on a bench.
Well, they did apprehend him because it blew up on social media.
Enough people were filming, and the cops hopefully felt pressure.
What's wild about this is like a huge story. But when I went on Google News, nothing. When I went on CNN.com, nothing. When I searched for it, I found the CNN article. But CNN was hiding it. They were not putting it anywhere on their homepage.
I mean, luckily enough, these things trend on Twitter. So
yeah,
that's
but
where
X
I
is
saw
finally
it.
a platform
X,
now where
yes.
people can start to see what's actually going on, can start to see real news that's not filtered by the mainstream media.
Or at least just gone in like an hour, where they
Yeah.
talk about it and then mind hole it and try to sound like an act.
Yeah. Get it away.
Yeah.
Never bring it up again. Pretend like it
Yeah.
didn't happen.
Yeah, it is. It's
Or
sad.
if you're a tranny that shoots up a school, then we'll just say it was a school shooting.
And again,
No need to know
like,
that it was a tranny.
wasn't that what state did that happen in? Was that Wisconsin?
I think so.
A school shooting in a Christian school, and that was by a
And the media would not report on their gender. But
that went away. And I don't want to hear about how, like, oh, the school shootings, that's just kind of new. We usually touch on them a little longer than that. That was literally like not even 3 days they reported on that, and that was gone. Like, what the hell?
they didn't want to.
I didn't even hear how many people died.
Details.
Exactly. I didn't even hear.
Not many people died.
Okay, but how many?
Yeah, 2 or 3 maybe. There was more injured, but
Still,
yeah, not many died.
That's still like, what kind? Was it a rifle? What happened?
I think it was a handgun.
I have absolutely no idea.
I have
Again,
no idea.
When the
Just-
perpetrator
just show
doesn't
that-
match their description, and the perpetrator is not, a white male or whatever, they don't really want to talk about it very much.
Yeah.
It's a short little montage here. 46-year-old man had been arrested 11 times, deported 8 times, murdered somebody in Ohio.
Deported 8 times? We just keep letting him back in.
At this point,
Just
I'm not
keep
a
letting
big
him
fan
back
of.
in.
I'm not a big fan of paying to imprison people. That's why I think we should have prisons where people can make money for the government and not cost the government money. They try to claim now, they already do that. No, that's a lie. Just because somebody makes license plates doesn't mean they're making the government money.
We're a 2-year-old boy.
Look
But
at
you can't keep deporting somebody who commits crimes. You got to just.
How did
imprison
that guy
them.
get his hands on a 2-year-old? God damn, that's so
how
unfortunate.
you can't tell me that this guy didn't come out of a mental asylum. Like this is a deranged, fucked up person.
This person is obviously not mentally 100%. We can all agree on that by that picture. Look at his eyes.
Yeah.
He's not okay. This man is not okay.
And like we can all argue, like now, considering his crime, should he be in jail? Yes. Should he have been outside previously? Probably not. He probably should have been institutionalized. And this
Probably
goes to a broader
he
point
probably
that, like,
literally was institutionalized back in whatever country he came from.
You're 100% right. And even in America, like how, like as our population has grown, even our own population, what percentage of people are not institutionalized that should be? Like along with the population growth, did the population of people institutionalized grow along with it? No. If anything, it shrunk.
Well, we shut down our state hospitals.
Literally,
We
like
used to
they
have
stopped getting funded. They don't exist anymore. Like, why do people not get sent to rubber rooms? Why is that not like a statement you hear anymore? Like fucking put these people in fucking padded rooms and those fucking straitjackets. Like Jesus Christ.
Well, they do that.
Electro fucking shock them. Hook them up to a fucking car battery. Just fucking microwave their fucking brains.
That's probably not the best way to treat mental
Get a
health
big
conditions.
fucking microwave and march all these people in there in fucking groups. All right.
Yeah, you're
Sidetrack.
really
Yes.
on the torture tonight.
Sorry,
Alejandro
you
Mayorkas
hear shit like
is the
this.
man.
You hear certain things over here. It's like Jesus Christ. Why are these people on the fucking street?
Then why are
Even
you
more
doing
so than Biden, I think that this is the man responsible.
It's justice I want to see.
This is the man who needs to be hung in front of the townspeople and need to get to throw
That's
stones at
calling
his
for
face
violence.
until he
Might wanna
dies.
Back off a little bit there, but
Whatever. If he deserves it, what is he fucking? Is he worse than Klaus Schwab?
I'm not calling for people to do this, but if we lived in a world where that was the type of punishment that he could get, I I think that it would probably be a type of world where people like him are less likely to exist. And people are not going to come into power and do these sorts of things if they
Okay,
know
tell me who
that
this
they're
guy
going
is.
to get stoned to death by the public.
Okay, give me a quick summary on who this guy is, and also for maybe people who are just strictly listening.
This is Alejandro Mayorkas. He is the Secretary of Homeland Security. The Secretary of DHS is what people better know this department as. He has been working to make it so our border is wide open. He's been working to make sure that there is absolutely no possible way that anybody can stop anybody from coming across the border.
Yeah.
He's been working to speed up the process. He works hand in foot with the NGOs that then send the children specifically to be raped or used
Yeah,
as
Jesus Christ.
labor slaves, essentially.
Did you see that video I sent you that was like the military had taken over a hotel in New York and they were like occupying it? The dude was like, what is this for? Like, were they prepping it for immigrants, for migrants? Or what was happening there? Do you know what the fuck that was about? That was fucking really weird.
The hotels in New York?
Yeah. Like the military are just in there, like in full uniform fatigues, and like obviously kicking him out for filming, but he was like, why are you guys here? Like, this is a public hotel. Like, why the fuck is the military here? Like the military was behind
I
the
think that
desk. Like,
the military was guarding the hotel so people couldn't come in and see the migrants because they had completely rented out that hotel. Specifically, there's multiple in New York. One of them was like a 27-story hotel that they had rented out to migrants exclusively.
Jesus Christ.
All on the taxpayer's dime. We get you across the
Yeah, I was gonna
border. We
say.
bring you here. We pay for this hotel for you, the entire hotel. And then
So
we
you're
guard it with
incentivized.
armed guards so nobody's allowed to come in and see what's going on. Maybe there's some special operations going on in here. You don't need to
Why
know.
are veterans won't get such treatment? You'll fight for this country and come back and live on the street and fuck you for it. You know what I mean? You know. But here, come from a insane asylum from Venezuela, fucking Guatemala, on your 8th time being deported from violent crimes, and hey,
Yeah.
come and stay in a high rise in fucking New York.
Well, we can obviously say that's not a system that works. If you're deporting a violent criminal 6 times,
It's not a system that works. It's happening now. It's currently taking place. It seems to be working and chugging along just fucking fine. At our detriment. I mean, we are the ones who ride the subway. The people who put these laws in place aren't on the subway.
Yeah.
They're not being lit on fire, are they? I mean, every once in a while they'll walk out of their fucking apartment and get fucking put down or get fucking Swiss cheesed, and that's where a little bit of justice can get swept over.
I'm thinking more and more that Luigi is
I like justice. I'm sorry?
I'm thinking more and more that there's something set up about that Luigi case.
Oh, there's more. Yeah, 100%. That smells rotten a million times over.
You still champion it, even if it was some sort of a CIA psyop?
Do I like seeing people who profit immensely on people's death die? I mean, kind of, yeah. I find satisfaction in that. I'm sorry, just like a
he also profits on people's life.
Yeah. Sure,
but a lot of care
was that company not like the highest fucking denier? I mean, what percentage of people a year annually die from easily preventable deaths? Like 70,000? Like, is this company? Is there not blood on his hands? Like, if you kill a single man, you're a murderer, right? If you kill 1,000, 1,000,000 men, you're a conqueror, right? Kill everyone, you're a god. Like, that's a famous quote from somewhere.
They also had rates that were like 10% lower than the industry average, so people were probably able to afford their insurance who couldn't afford anyone else's. So some health insurance, and also people need to read the terms of their plan. Like, if something's not covered, it's not a surprise. They don't just like, oh, we're not going to cover you. You have to look into your paperwork when you sign up for a plan and see what it covers and what it doesn't. And people try to get things covered and they're not part of their plan. You got to pay for a more expensive plan for that.
Sure.
Yeah, if you know that you're at the health company that denies more people, then why not just switch your health insurance?
It's a free country. You're more than welcome to. I mean, even if you're on Medicaid, you still get to choose from like 4 different providers. United Healthcare is one of them. I think I've used them in the past. I didn't have any problems. Seemed just as good as any other Medicaid provider, if not better. So I guess it's kind of to each their own.
Yeah, but it's a free country. You're right. It's a free country. I can navigate the bullshit of that and those phone calls, or I can just go right to the head. And the guy who's making my life such an annoying pain, I can just fucking go put a fucking hole in his head.
United said that he wasn't one of their customers.
Oh. then what does this show to the broader point of what really is this about?
Maybe it's about class warfare.
Maybe it's about the trying to start of that ideal, and so they can more easily shut it down. What is ayahuasca? What is the process, and where does that take your brain? People like to claim that this kid changed a lot after an experience of ayahuasca, and the CIA did declassify that astral projection or fucking remote viewing is real. So, was he visited or compromised upon his ayahuasca trip? Was he changed? Was certain ideals or motives set? I don't know. I've never experienced ayahuasca.
Who was his trip sitter? What ideas could they have implanted in his head during that time?
Yeah, I mean, I know you're extremely vulnerable upon taking of those drugs.
I've just been listening to an audiobook called Chaos, and it's basically just covered the Charlie Manson case, and essentially what it's put together is that Charlie Manson was allowed to stay out of prisons continuously because he had some sort of backhand shepherding from the CIA. Like, he was arrested dozens of times in LA. His probation officer, he was the only person on his probation officer's roll for a long time leading up to it. And then when he moved to LA under that guy's guidance, he stayed a personal friend but stopped being his PO, likely. So anything that would happen in court later couldn't be tied directly to this one very specific guy. Strange situation.
So maybe certain people are just like, yeah, they're just monitored, right? Like the CIA is made aware of them, and then they can just do certain things or set certain. Oh, here, don't intervene at certain times. Let him out of jail. We can kind of guide him to try to steer him to do certain things that we want to happen, right? These false flag attacks, so we can then implement certain ideals or policies later, or who knows, if we can have this take out an adversarial person to us or to our own policies, or I know JFK wasn't a big fan of them, and there he went. Or he wasn't a big fan of AIPAC either, and there he went. That's how that goes often.
Brian Thompson, I think, was the guy's name, and supposedly, I really need to look into this further, because supposedly he was going to go and do a stand testament at a trial for insider trading. So there might have been a reason that people wanted him to go.
Yeah.
I would push back on your remote viewing. The CIA did not confirm remote viewing is real. They did research on it, and they had some results, but the results were not confirmative that remote viewing was a reliable way of seeing remotely. So, yeah, just because some guy claimed that it's true on a podcast with no real evidence doesn't make it true.
They funded the Monroe Institute, which is still a place that you can go and pay to learn how to remote view.
I think they've done enough research and put enough money into it for me to believe that there's something tangible there. And they've had some kind of long document recently declassified, but only a certain few pages have been redacted. And I still wonder what those entail, if they're more key into the more like explicit way to do it. But yeah, I believe people have been compromised through drugs, through LSD, through, I don't know to what. I mean, there is some specific certain plane that people, what the fuck is this about?
It got confettied. I don't know.
Fucking doing this, that just causes fucking confetti.
I guess so. I didn't do anything.
It did that time. Okay.
I did not seem to have the confetti touch.
Anyways, but it's just, I'm not out of the complete realm that this kid who was living a very privileged life through the Ivy League and like a WASP, then goes and does an ayahuasca trip and comes back and a few months later does something, I don't know. Mind altering drugs, CIA compromisation, compromise. Those can kind of go hand in hand.
Yeah. How much did you know about, or do you know about the Charlie Manson case? So I didn't know very much prior to reading.
Not a lot at all, honestly.
So he had he called it the family, and
right,
this
and
was
he himself did not commit any murders, correct? It was all coercion.
Yeah,
right.
It was mostly like 5 separate females, like 15, 14, 16-year-olds mostly.
Right,
he had
because I remember
very underage girls.
He very firmly like held his innocence. Like, I didn't kill anyone. That's what I remember him just kind of saying. That was his big tagline. It's like, I did not kill anyone. I didn't.
Glove does not fit.
Yeah. He told other people to.
That was
somehow
bullshit. That fucking glove fit. Sorry, I can't.
it seemed to have the way that it seems like this happened was he had them take LSD for days and days and days in a row.
Not
They
good
would
for you.
become pretty much blank slates. And then right before the killings themselves, they did speed, really high amounts of amphetamines, and they were blank slates that were
Revved
ready
up.
to kill.
I wonder
Yeah.
who gave him those ideas to do that.
Yeah.
And he doesn't seem like a very smart guy to be like making this LSD. But maybe it's just easier to get back then, I imagine, just in cleaner doses, I guess, to find liquid or crystal LSD. Who knows?
Kind of seemed like he had
Definitely.
access to as much as he could have wanted. Part of the way that they tried to get people to join the family, because he had guys that were like part of the family and would be providers for him as well, because he never had to have money of his own, was they would have the crew of girls, these very young girls, go out and find dudes that they would recruit to come back and have like threesomes or orgies or whatever with them, and they would smoke weed. They would obviously the guys would know that they were smoking weed, but it would be laced with LSD. So then they would wake up in the morning in a pile of limbs, kind of still tripping the fuck out on, and they either can become part of the family or maybe they wander home and like, what the fuck happened to me last night?
Yeah.
I think kind of directing it more towards the main message that we have is kind of that is a part of it, the collapse of morality a bit, keeping Christ in Christmas and trying to see how we can push America back on a more healthy path.
When do we think, let's try to pinpoint it, when do we believe that the real shift in maybe the mainstream populace or the swath of American like feeling, when did we feel like Christ really left? When do we feel like the whole mass kind of is no longer, the majority is under religion?
Well, growing up, I always felt like Christianity was under attack from the mainstream media. So I think even when I was in like elementary and middle school, the media was still pretty hostile towards anything Christian.
I remember from kindergarten to maybe third grade, every morning we did the Pledge of Allegiance, one nation under God.
True.
Like, but that did stop. But I think it was before middle school that did stop.
I still did Pledge of Allegiance in my middle school.
So maybe it was like, I don't know,
but it was right around
2005 to maybe 8, or maybe it was around Obama.
A lot of things did change under Obama.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's an administration just started to. I mean, it really was supposed to. It was built on, like change, but I don't know. Maybe it caused a lot more division, or just.
Yeah, kind of like Obama didn't seem that bad at the time, but the further time goes on, it seems like the more.
And now that we look back, like where comedy was, where television was, like racism, it didn't seem like a thing. It was not focused on. It was not talked about. Like it wasn't like everyone was just on that equal playing board. People joked about them. They joked back. That's what I realized, and that's why I really like in those kind of era of TV comedies and movies, because it was just that was just not like, no one talked about gender. There was badass girls in movies. There was badass guys. The black guys joked about the white guys. The white guys joked about the black guy. It was just cool. Comedy was cool. Everyone was up for grabs. No one was sensitive. But then, right around then, early just before 2010, things started to get a little more sensitive.
If you kind of look at the two big cartoons of our childhoods, as far as being like Family Guy and American Dad, you have both of those shows
pushing the boundaries.
Well, not sure pushing the boundaries, but also just the main premise of both of those shows is they're about a white male father who's like an idiot. The entire show just makes fun of the white
and
male
then that
father.
Also, I don't know when the standard became set though, like in The Simpsons.
Another one where it's basically a white male idiot father.
Modern Family.
Yeah.
The Middle, name all the shows that is the construct. Dad's an idiot. Mom is too smart for the dad.
The Middle? I don't think The Middle would be one of them.
Maybe not. But
the father actually wasn't an idiot in that show.
Right, but arrogant about certain things. Or ignorant about certain things, maybe.
Yeah, ignorant about certain things is fair.
Closed-minded, you could maybe say, even.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But it's definitely not like the Leave It to Beaver era. When you look at the old shows that they had in the 60s, like the male fathers gave out good advice. They were responsible. They were mature. They were emotionally stable. They provided for their family. The woman could stay at home if she wanted to. And then in our generation, all of that changed. Like basically, they just went against the family, and they definitely went against men are idiots. And I think that's not how you lead a successful society, by trying to destroy the man and trying to destroy the family.
That try to change the dynamic or the idea of home. And then big time in school, man. Like, I really did feel that, like, they did not ever want to talk about religion, like one bit. I felt like none of my teachers were very religious at all.
No.
Most teachers were extremely
because of the
liberal.
ACLU. I know there was just ACLU's funding was getting cut in this latest bill. Not that they should have had any in the first place, but the ACLU really is the one that made, I think, like, teachers and government officials afraid to do anything remotely positive Christianity. They started suing city halls because they had a nativity scene out. Like, who's a nativity scene hurting?
Yeah.
Like, what about keeping Christ in Christmas? What's wrong with the nativity
yeah.
scene? It's a part of American culture. And yeah, I mean, it is inclusive, because that's the thing about the difference between, like, the gays and the Christians. Is the Christians is a religion that anyone can join, anyone can be part of, and nobody has a higher ranking than anyone else because of something predetermined. But if you go to an LGBTQ rally and you're just a straight white male and you're supportive of their cause, you're always a second-class citizen. Like, you know, you can never have a disagreement there, because they're like, shut up, this isn't your space, this is our space, you can't talk here. So, like, if you just want to cheer and clap your hands and shut up, you can go to one of these rallies. Yeah. But it's not an open community. And that's why I do agree with you that the nativity scene is open. Anyone's welcome to celebrate that holiday. Anyone's welcome to, you know, to go look at Jesus and talk to people about Christianity, and it's open.
Yeah.
It's definitely not like you either are eligible or you're not. We're like, you know, like a gay rally. Either you're gay or you're not. If you're not gay, you're never going to be as accepted as we are, even no matter how much you support us. Yeah. And that type of division, I think that's been the left's most powerful tool, is they've managed to try to divide everyone and try to
give everyone a reason to have internal division, no matter what group it is. And that's where religion can trump that. It's like, man, it's usually extremely accepting. Usually, that's the idea of it.
Well, that's the thing. Like, even if you're not Christian, they're not going to stop.
You can be. You can be.
But not only you can be, but I mean, if you walk into a church service on Christmas, no one's going to ask you if you're a Christian. You just can walk down and sit down and enjoy the service.
Yeah, that's true.
And there's also evangelical Christians who go out there and try to recruit more people. Yeah. So you don't really see that same type of recruitment mentality on the other side. It's like,
but that's more like specific to that specific part religion, and only that kind of specific sect. There's a lot of parts of Christianity that aren't that outwardly inclusive.
And with some other religions, it's a little more confusing. Like with Jewish, like anyone can become Jewish, but it's also like a race and a faith. So you can like become Jewish as a religion, but you're not really Jewish. You're not like the same Jewish as people who are Jewish and also Jewish by ethnicity.
And they're not really Jewish.
It gets not every religion is quite as open as Christianity. I would say Christianity and Muslims are both quite open with who they're allowed in, and they won't treat you like a second-class citizen if you do decide to join.
It's not tradition to spit on other religions.
So apparently it's become a lot more popular. If you look at like the American Dad or the Family Guy, they love making fun of religions in there. And they also, you know, try to make main characters gay.
And I just think that's what's unfortunate is like when what was once a country that was founded and kind of built on Christian values, like it's so easily and it's so popularly mocked here. Like in other countries, like in an Islamic country, they would protect Christianity more than what was once a Christian nation would. I think it's kind of sad now.
Yeah, like you will get more trouble for mocking Jesus Christ in a Muslim
nation
than in America.
Yeah, they have more respect for Jesus there than they do here. You can openly mock him, and it's encouraging. There's television shows about it and shit.
And if you're the other direction, you're like evil. You're like trying to indoctrinate people if you are pro-Christian.
Yeah, and I almost remember like growing up, it seemed when I was very young personally, it seemed to me that the boring traditional route and almost the conformist way was to be religious, and the rebellious way was to not. And nowadays, almost the older I get,
Totally off.
it seems so inverted that way, that like, wow, you're such a rebel that you still like, wow, you go to church, or like, look at those people who are still pray over their meal. I'll hear other servers talking like, man, I still love to see that. Like, look at those people who pray before eating. Like, you don't see that very often anymore. You know what I mean?
No.
I'll see that like 2 or 3 times a year. Like, people be put their food down, they don't just immediately eat it. It's weird. You know what I mean? I mean, it gives you appreciation, I guess. It's the broader effect, like these things. It all has like a greater perspective, I guess.
When I was in middle school, I tried to start a Christian like Bible club because we didn't have one.
Oh, bless your little heart.
Try to meet at lunch, and it was a struggle trying to get anyone to come to it. There was just so little interest in Christianity, and this was, you know,
this is probably when it was really starting to
years
fall.
ago, you know.
Yeah, unfortunately.
And it was already that bad then. You can just imagine what it's like now.
How old were you at the time?
I was probably like 12 or something.
And who was organizing the lunch?
I was.
Yeah, I started like a Christian
Bible club. Well.
It might have been more of a people not coming to hang out with you thing than a people not coming to do the Christianity thing.
No, I had a girl who like was co-founding it with me, and she didn't have much better luck recruiting either. So
okay.
it was just the environment.
And hey, and I'll admit, like, boom, at that age, that was probably the furthest thing I had any interest to put any even mental thought into. The only reason I wanted to go to my friend's home church was so I didn't have to either be at home with my father and like get the snacks and flirt with girls. Like, I found personally the Christian girls easy. They were overly nice. They were overly you know, like affectionate. So I found myself liking it for that reason. But again, I wasn't like, my parents didn't raise me with anything. They wanted to give me the option. It was total freedom, but that was just freedom that to put me down the path of depravity. And then when I did try to attend church, my dad would call me, he would use the words like grifter or tourist. He'd call me, you grifter, you fucking tourist. You know what I mean?
Interesting.
Trying to call out your
the hypocrisy of going, yeah. And I could see it everywhere. He knew my true intentions upon going.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean,
did you ever identify yourself as remotely religious growing up?
I never identified it, but there was moments that I listened. I had genuine conversations with people there. There was even a couple of nights I tried to go home, and I even tried like, because they tried to have a conversation with God. And it was one hell of a one-sided conversation. Yeah. I have to tell you what. I tried. I really I put my heart into it. I tried, but felt a little silly, and it didn't last long.
Well, I think the problem is that you're not schizophrenic, so you have trouble having a conversation.
But every once in a while, you'd hear these girls would start tearing up and talk about their experience with God. So you're like, all right, like, what the fuck? Like, am I missing something? Like, you know, like, what the hell is going on? I hear both of really talking to God in their beds at night. Like, what the fuck is going on?
I hear both of you saying that Christianity is like a good thing, but I also hear both of you saying that you don't believe in Christianity.
No, I consider myself a cultural Christian. So a cultural Christian, you understand the benefits of Christianity. It's good for society. You can raise your kids up with it. But you will never have to get into a debate to defend how God is real, because that's not what being a cultural Christian is about. It's just being a cultural Christian. We just assume that this is true because it's good for society and it's not worth nitpicking. It's like a good movie. It's like, if you try to ask somebody about the plot every 2 minutes, you're going to ruin the movie. You can't diagnose it. You just got to enjoy it as one whole experience. And just stick with cultural Christianity. Because if you look at what's in the Bible, above all else, treat your neighbor as you'd want treated yourself. Like, if you remember nothing else about Christianity, Jesus was like, the one thing you should remember is to treat others
how you'd want to be treated.
And it's a really simple way to live by. But it's like, if you want to get deeper into it, you can. You can go to a Bible study. You can read some of the best books of the Bible that are, pretty decent books on philosophy and how to live and everything. There's books like Psalms that have a lot of wisdom in them. You can read about pride causing a lot of problems. There's a lot of good stuff in the Bible if you want to base it as your morality. And that's why I think cultural Christianity is really the way to go. Does it, somebody else could probably get a lot of the same benefits out of being a cultural Muslim. Like,
True.
I'm not going to hate on anyone's religion as long as they're trying to live a great life and treating other people as they want to be treated, because I think that's the type of society you want to live in. You want to live in a society where you don't have to chain up your grill, where you don't have to have park benches drilled into the concrete.
I don't even have to lock my car. Like, there's countries where you don't have to lock your car. People leave their keys in their car. These are extremely religious countries.
And a lot of these are third world countries, or what we would call third world. I heard
not anymore.
Somebody said something about Thailand. He says, I can leave my book bag here on the street in Thailand by this big hotel complex. And he says, I can come back and get it tomorrow. And if it's not here tomorrow, then I can just go to the security and they'll have it. Yeah. Like, you can't say that about New York City.
That's not something you can say about almost anywhere. Like, shit, man, if there's a book bag just laying around, that's probably going to get grabbed in most places.
Dubai or Qatar, Saudi.
There's cities in America that are that way.
Japan. There are places like Japan.
It depends on the person more so than anything. Mark Rober did an actual, like, he tried to make this scientific. He dropped a wallet and he had a way that people could know whose wallet it was, and that it was in a place where it would be easy to turn in. And I don't remember what percentage did, but some people took the money, some people took the whole wallet, some people turned it in. It's very person dependent, not really place dependent so much.
No, it's definitely place dependent. You're going to find huge differences in the places of the people.
Absolutely.
And it's also like when you walk through a pretty place, part of you is more motivated to keep it pretty, right? If you're walking through a shithole, you're not going to feel as bad as throwing glitter on top of it.
The broken window fallacy. Like, if you break out a window in a building, more windows are likely to get broken out.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a strange thing, but it's a real proven.
Fact. And God is an interesting.
So what are your views on it?
Levi.
I think the term cultural Christian is a nice term. I would say that I'm much more close to that today than anything else. In the past, I mean, I thought the teachings of Jesus are good, but I also felt like I wanted to poke holes in people who were religious's thought patterns, because, like, feels to me like there's a lot of holes. But I don't know. While you guys were talking, an example came to my mind that I thought was worth sharing. When people sit down to pray, say grace, I don't really have any issue with the whole prayer. It's just I take issue with saying amen at the end. Like, I think that the point of sitting down and sharing gratitude with each other is a really good thing to do. It creates stronger family ties. Having gratitude makes people just happier in general.
Being
it's like
thankful for what you have.
Yeah, it's a very good life practice.
That's what prayer is about, is acknowledgement.
The acknowledgement and the acknowledgement that others don't have the same privileges that you have.
And it brings the family together around a dinner table for their food, rather than like just all grabbing something and going and sitting in front of the TV or back to their room.
Yeah, moments to be mindful like that are important, to remember what you have.
Yeah, I think the amen is, it's really just like, I agree and thank you for making the prayer. I think that's kind of what people mean when they say amen. It's just like, thank you, I agree. Like, great prayer.
Aye, Captain.
Exactly. Yeah.
Here.
I always took amen as more so to be like, I salute God the Almighty. Thank you for having prepared this food for me. Like, no, fam. Like, it's the people around here. We have the food. I don't need.
Right, and look, let me put it to the greater point. You're right. We're giving thanks to all of us who are here. We're the ones who did this, but we're here because of him. It's that larger point.
Yeah.
Thanks to us, and because of us, thank you to him. You know what I mean? For us.
Is that what you think, Dakota?
Yeah, but that's what I think they think. That's what I think they think.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is yours?
We did this.
Are you a Christian, Dakota?
No, and I wasn't raised with anything. But,
me either.
Right. But
I went to church a few times, like here and there, just with family or friends, but wasn't a regular thing by any means.
No.
My dad taught me the Lord's Prayer at one point.
I mean, and I felt a lot of, like, I think I had a really good childhood, but the older I got, I saw, and the more, exposure you get to the perversions of the world, I started to think, like, okay, I find these things so perverse, right? Like, holy shit, like, I'm seeing a lot more of the evil in the world. Well, if I'm seeing this and thinking of this as evil, do I have a contrast for this? You know what I mean? Like if I'm seeing a line, like I'm believing a line to be so one straight, I have to have an idea of a line straight first. You know what I mean? Like I have to have some kind of
moral compass
initially to feel this as bad. Like, so where's that from? Where does that come from initially, right? And then with everything, the universe, there's an equal and opposite force. So if there's so much equal or there's so much evil, right? There has to be in some way some kind of opposite. There has to be some kind of good, eternal good, right? Like only such a bright light can cast such dark shadows. You know what I mean?
I think a lot of that comes innately though from the kind of the golden rule and treating others as you like to be treated. Because like say you have two kids and one kid starts hitting the other kid and the other kid's like stop, and the kid's like why should I stop hitting you? It's like, well, you wouldn't like it if I hit you, and they can be like whatever, and then you start hitting them. They're like, oh, it's kind of a natural part of the world, is that I think that treating others as you want to be treated just makes sense. Like you're trying to eat something, you're trying to run from something, or you're trying to get along with something. Like that's kind of like how nature works. And us humans are supposed to be getting along with each other. We're not supposed to be killing each other. We're not supposed to be running away from each other. We're supposed to just be getting along. And I think that's where kind of the good versus evil, the God versus atheism. And I'm not saying atheists are evil. Like I identified closely to an atheist a lot of my life, just because agnostic isn't really a well-known term compared to atheism, even though that described me a lot better, because it's like,
if you can prove it, I'll happily adjust the
exactly.
evidence before me.
I don't have proof that God's real. I don't have proof that God's not real. And also,
I feel pretty alone a lot of the times. Like that's what you know what I mean? Like growing up, like I don't know if he's real or not, but I feel alone when I'm alone. So sorry.
And I also got like kind of the atheist argument of like, well, what do you call somebody who doesn't ski? Well, there's not a word for it. Right. A non-skier, like it's just there's not a word for it. So why should there be a word for?
And I found the argument of if you're going to make such an outrageous claim as there's a man in the sky who made everything, then hey, it's your claim. Then you believe, and you're talking to him, and you believe him. Then show him to me. That's on you. The burden of proof falls onto you.
But then faith would mean nothing.
Then faith would mean nothing. Exactly. And that's the part that is really so important. And it is faith that is almost like the adult part in you. Like that's what makes someone like, hey, why would you not want to not litter? Like I don't want to have to live in the shitty, because then it's the idea of because later I know what this is gonna make. Faith is like I'm gonna be good now, so I have a better afterlife. That doesn't have to be true. It's like if you're good now, life will be better.
Yeah, yes, sir.
That's just a broader point of religion, I guess.
Praise to that.
Here's the thing that I think is really cool is faith is very like abstract, where it's like it's kind of like unprovable and stuff like that. But
intangible.
But then faith is very correlated with trust, because trust and faith are almost the same thing. It's like if you trust your best friend and they're over at your house and there's $100 missing out of your wallet, you're not going to assume that your friend stole it. You're going to be like, oh damn, I must have like dropped it when I was at the store, because that you have trust in your friends. You kind of have faith in your friends. And I think it's kind of the same thing with God, where people have faith in God because they're like, well, God's never done me wrong. Like every time I got punched in the face, it was by a human, not by God.
Yeah.
Like, like you can believe that God is good because God doesn't ever do anything bad. Like you can blame, your kid dying on God and like, why'd you let my kid die? But at the end of the day, there was a more rational cause for why your child
whatever
died.
This is just the external force. It's like dark matter. This is the part that is just not, is non-tangible.
And even if your child died from cancer or something, it's like, well, God gave humans a lot of intelligence that they could cure cancer. So even if your kid died from cancer, that's not your fault, but it's something that if you were the most dedicated parent in the world, you could have studied cancer books 24/7 and tried to make a cure. Like, I'm not saying that you should have had to do that, but the point is that God did give you a lot of intelligence and a lot of free will if he's what did that to you. And also, I think also with our current evolutionary understanding of the universe and how it was created, we basically have the entire universe coming from a single point and expanding from it. So it's really not very different than what Christians say, that God just created the world out of nothing.
And then it's also, remember, what every scientist says, like they have all this evidence, but it's all based off of a miracle. They can't explain that first part, right?
Yeah,
it's all
because the laws of physics don't work.
They can do it. They have it all figured out, except for the it's all based on the miracle. Like you have to give us that one caveat. Again, like you said, that's basically Christianity.
Yeah, so that's why I think that's what. But see, this is one of those things where I think the media tries to create more division, where they try to pit the atheists against the Christians. But really, how similar are they? Because I talk to most atheists. Somebody who identifies as an atheist ain't out there like raping people and stealing from people. Like that's like an intellectual thing. Like you have the rapists and the murderers down here on this intellectual tier.
A lot of atheists
on a higher level.
A lot of atheists nowadays. There's a new subsect that I want to just say that they call themselves spiritual, which in my mind is just a lazy religious person. It's a person who I want to believe and not go to church or have to follow any rules, and that's just kind of a lazy religion in my mind.
It's like saying you believe in
now, like I'm
astrology signs. I'm spiritual.
Yeah, I know. I hear that a lot.
Actually, I think that's far more towards what somebody that defines themselves as spiritual is. It's like spiritual, I think, is a way to say agnostic, but leaning towards definitely believing in something rather than believing in atheism.
They're just scared to say that it's or whatever an organized religion says. But
well,
hey, what is
in my opinion, I define myself as agnostic because I don't possibly think that I can know. And there's literally thousands of religions out there, and I think that anybody that declares themselves as identifying as one specific type of religion is just fooling themselves, because have you read all of these other thousands of religious books? Like how have you come to your decision as to what is the one truth? And I don't know. It seems impossible to identify which one specific religion would be the religion. Even if you're religious, like, come on. How do you know that it's that one?
Because your family and every generation up to that point, a lot of the time, is like, you know what I mean? It's like, I am the miracle that is defined by that. Look at my lineage, and that has been literally pathed and carved out by God. The one true God. Now, like when people ask me now, like I used to say, of course I don't, but now, like I will say I believe. I'm just like looking for the correct God. You know what I mean? The correct religion, the right path. I don't know. I mean, and the only reason I do believe.
So you're spiritual, huh?
I can see the evidence. I don't want to say that, but like I want to say I do believe there is a God. There is probably a one true God. You know what I mean? Probably for sure. But like only because I believe I've seen the evidence.
You just called yourself an atheist like 5 minutes ago.
I know. I never said I called myself an atheist. I said I used to identify, at least to align myself with that, just like you did. Sure. Through childhood.
I think Levi, what you got to understand though is that like being agnostic is not exclusive from being a cultural Christian, because it's kind of like being a cultural Christian is basically about like what should we push if religion is going to be pushed, what's a good basis for what we can use for basing like detailed morality on. And that's the thing, is like it's easy to just say, oh, I'm a good person, but then where does that lead? Like it's just boring. The thing about being a Christian is that there's a whole Bible, there's the whole lore essentially, and there's a lot to it. Like if you want to get a lot deeper into it and have a Bible study for a month about 2 chapters of the Bible, you can do that. Like there's a lot to it, and it gives you something to base a community around. And that's where like being agnostic or being atheist, there's nothing to base a community around. And I actually there was a guy I ran into at Panera, and he had a sign that said, "I'm an atheist, start a conversation," like something like that. It was very, very open. And I actually went to him and started kind of debating with him. And he had trouble pinning me down because I came at him and saying I was a cultural Christian, and basically everything he normally threw at the religious people didn't work on me, because it's like he can't argue with me if God's real. He can't ask me to prove God, because that's like Richard Dawkins is the one who I learned this term from. And Richard Dawkins was like, and the devil in my parents' stories, if they ever had talked about him. He was like a big pro-atheist. He was one of the biggest pushers of making sure like Christianity got out of schools and stuff like that. And then later in life, he just realized, like, where does this lead us? Like, okay, I've done this. I started this giant atheism movement and made it way more popular than it's ever been before. But what has that gained us?
Where's the end point? Where's the destination?
Yeah, where's the destination, and what are the people doing along the way? And he just realized, he's like, this is not helping to build a healthy, functioning society. We have a society right now where, you know what, 1 in 3 women have a mental health problem. I think I heard from Rutgers. Like, that is insane. That is an insanely high number.
Yeah.
And then also what, like 1 in 22 kids is autistic now. Like, we have a terribly unhealthy mentally society. And I think that's the thing about God, is like, if a girl should really not struggle with anxiety that much if she believes in Jesus enough. Because if you believe in Jesus enough, he's protecting you. He's always with you. He's always watching out for you. He always knows your thoughts. Like, it's kind of hard to get really like lonely and anxious when you just have this great guy in the sky who's always here to protect you and look after you. And even if you get hurt, it was meant to be. Like, that part's a little dangerous, but
I think it's just easier to allow the things that do not really matter slide ultimately.
yeah.
Like, it allows you to just focus on what
And
really, like, family, faith, like, and you know what I mean? Like, it's usually in that, like,
But and it
family,
also
faith, country, in that order, and people can go along that, and they keep their family right. They worry about faith and following those tenets that keep a person good and honest, and they go about country and community and homogeny.
yeah.
And that's been a pretty proven tactic throughout history with a lot of communities. And I'm a person who is, I mean, the more I look into religion, I look into Islam personally, and I find fascination with that. But I think in America, Christianity should be majorly pushed. You know what I mean? I think in the Middle East, Islam should be majorly pushed. I just like the idea of religions that are inclusive, and, you know, like Adam said, the underlying tenet is not that one person is better than the other, but is that you know, treat others how you'd want to be treated.
Yeah.
Not that you're a chosen people, because, you know.
I mean, Christianity teaches that we're all flawed and none of us are perfect.
Yeah, exactly.
Sinful. And also, I think another thing that's good about Christianity is it's really big on the forgiveness and not holding grudges. And like, that's the type of stuff is like, families get split up so many times because of grudges and not being able to forgive people. Like,
it should be the remembrance of, like, what one of the big tenets is, like, what the important thing is family.
Family and community is important, but also, you know, if somebody does do some stupid thing and offends somebody or says something dumb, you don't hold the grudge against them. Like, you treat them as God's going to forgive them and you're going to forgive them. And also, a big thing in Christianity is that it's not your job to judge people. Like, that's God's job to judge people. Don't try to judge people. Don't try to cast sentences upon them. Like, they'll be dealt with in the afterlife. It's your job to just treat them well, treat them as you want to be treated, and turn the cheek and such. Definitely, the Old Testament and the New Testament are a bit different. On Old Testament's a lot more eye for an eye and tooth for a tooth.
Yeah, true.
Which is like works in a more rustic society, or maybe it's just a better society.
In the last podcast,
a lot more about the forgiveness.
In the last podcast, weren't we talking about bringing shame back?
Oh, absolutely. I think we're 100%.
But shame's not strictly forbidden in the Bible, because like if somebody's like doing immoral things, you're not supposed to just ignore it. And I think that's where the modern Christianity in America's got a little diluted, where I think shame has become a little more taboo than it probably should be. Where, like, just because you keep outreaching to someone doesn't mean you're accepting their lifestyle. And like Adam said last time, just because it falls under the terms of consent, or, you know what I mean, that doesn't mean it's just automatically should be okay. It should just be deemed fine. You know what I mean? Oh, you're saying not all sex that's consent should still be looked upon favorably. Like, look at that girl who had over 100. Like, should that have been legally allowed? Like, Jesus Christ, that's horrible. From a health standpoint.
That girl who was.
Right, exactly. Like certain things, like, maybe you just shouldn't, like, like, maybe you got to pay for a permit for that or something, like, and do mandatory health screening. Like, Jesus Christ. Like, I don't even know. That's just horrible. But no, I can understand how outlawing something like, because that's the thing is, like, I used to be very libertarian, and what I've really come to in the last few years is it's like, just because something doesn't directly go outside of your bubble. Well, no, here's the kind of the thing. I'm a very big fan of bubble laws, and like, if your bubble doesn't infringe on somebody else's bubble, it should be legal. But there's also morality and the culture and affecting culture. But see, that's if no one knew about this girl, would it really matter? It's almost like the tree falls in the woods. Well, no, yeah, exactly. What effect does this have on the young girls in the world? What girl wants to be the next girl that saw that and now takes that as a challenge to be the girl who's known as the girl for 200 guys in a day? It's, you know what I mean? I don't want to know where this could lead to. It's obvious.
The previous record is over 900, by the way. That's why she wanted to do 1,000. This was a warm up. This was to get a feel for it. 100.
Great. How recently, like in
last year? She's getting a feel for a little too much, if you ask me.
Last year, how many porn stars committed suicide?
No idea.
Quite a few I've read about.
I believe it. But then another one. There's been quite a few who have recently turned to Christianity.
There's
that's like the oldest story in the book, though. Like the prostitute coming to Christ, but
a guy named Peter Diamandis who has a term, he calls it MTP, or a massive transformative purpose, and he tries to coach entrepreneurs and inspire entrepreneurs.
This is one of the PayPal founders.
Yeah, actually. I think that sort of a term in life is a really good way to live your life. Because if you have something that you really want to accomplish and you can strive for it, then you're going to be a pretty good person along the way to try to get there, or you should be. Uh, there's a different term called actualized nihilism, which I think is my favorite of any sort of way to identify, because it's about getting to know yourself. If you're truly in an existence where absolutely nothing matters, then you get to decide what matters. And I
Yeah,
think that that's very liberating to be able to
it is.
decide what you want and then go after it.
You choose what becomes a priority to you, and you focus on
Yeah.
it. Oh, I
And
actually this particular thing actually brings me fulfillment.
But the nihilism is the cancer of the society. That's the problem with this like gender queerness and stuff. Like you can
unactualized
be
nihilism
anything.
can
There's
be a cancer.
Sure, and well, hey,
If
let's go to
you
the
have
broader point.
never taken the time to identify how you feel about things and what you think
Right, but
that you
that
should
can lead
want
down
in
to,
life, then
but Levi, that can lead down a very gluttonous path, right?
oh, it
So let's look
can.
at it like
Yeah,
this.
it
So let's look at
absolutely
it like
can.
this. Right. So let's look at it like this. If you have a menu of emotions from choose from, off the cuff, which are you going to choose, Levi?
Well, proud is a pretty good one to aim for.
Exactly. But a lot of people choose
Thrill is a
happiness.
different one that I am strongly. I like it.
You and I kind of share that Adam a little bit too, and that's why we do the sometimes certain things we do. But pride is the one ultimately all three of us should be striving for, and not even just comfort or happiness, which is sometimes a distraction,
Yeah.
right? And that can lead to gluttony or just
But you can
futility and distraction. But pride is what you should ultimately.
Could you imagine
strive
how
for.
empty our prisons would be if every time before somebody committed a crime, they're like, would doing this act make me proud?
No, not even that. Would this act make the people before me, my ancestors, the
yeah.
people who, you know what I mean? We're in a lot. Think of what kind of situations our ancestors were to get where we are in the comfort and
Insane.
opulence we're in now.
Insane.
People died on battlefields. People froze in fucking cold. And
Yes.
and even before that, I was thinking of people who crossed the country, you know, and it wasn't even fucking developed. All that
Invented
shit.
agriculture. Like,
Literally built railroads and got across the country. So like, yeah, like what can we do to make those people proud? And then look at the people like to talk a lot of shit about billionaires, but it's people like that who I think really took into consideration the action, who actually realized that, like, okay, I'm being watched upon my ancestors. What can I do to make an impact, not on like the world, but like time?
You know what? Here's a really good one. I think the problem with our society is the problem with Luigi and the support for Luigi is like if you truly believe that how this man ran his healthcare company is one of the most evil things in society. If you really cared about the people, why wouldn't you start your own healthcare company and compete with them and offer cheaper insurance for better quality and not deny claims? Because that's the thing is like, do you care about the people or not? Because is killing him going to make insurance cheaper? No. So if you actually care about people and you actually want to help people, you can't just like go around acting irresponsibly, ignoring the rules of society, and just seeking out your own personal justice when we still live in a functioning like capitalistic society. We might have taxes, we might have regulations, but it's still functioning. You can go out there and compete with this guy, no one's stopping you. So I think that's what we need to push for societies. Like when you're mad at the system, don't try to just break it down, try to go make it better. And that's the thing that the left is not about making the system better. They're really like, oh, healthcare sucks. Let's socialize it. Let's outlaw all the private companies and just have the government run it like the DMV. And let's have that be our solution to healthcare. And that is such a dangerous mentality because as bad as our free market is, just putting the BMV in charge of healthcare, if you think about how you're treated at the BMV and how you want to be treated in healthcare,
you're absolutely right about that.
That
It's
is
not an
not
answer.
a solution you want.
No.
The farthest thing from a solution.
I 100% agree with that. There's a small part of me that also believes in action over litigation. I'm just going to say that. With anger comes just the want for immediate action. Litigation is slow, Adam. Okay? Right? Playing these little
And
rules and doing these things is
corruptible.
slow. Okay? It's slow.
Yeah.
You know what's not slow? Bullets. Just saying.
Yeah,
I'm not saying that solved anything. That was not an answer to anything. I'm not agreeing with that also.
what about the
But
guy
I
that had
know
been
the feeling
deported
of
8
true rage
times?
and wanting to hurt other people.
I don't think that's a solution though.
I agree. I just said I agree with that. I just said I did. But I also have to agree with when I've been angry. I've wanted to hurt people. Bullets go really fast and solve problems really, really fast.
But what problem did they
Temporary.
solve usually?
I never said
for
it.
self-defense.
Right.
For self-defense, I can advocate for violence, but not for self-defense. It's a lot harder to advocate for violence. Like that's the thing. We can look at people like Julius Caesar and Genghis Khan. They built great empires, but they did it at great human expense. And did they ever strive to reduce the number of casualties? No. that never seem to be a priority.
Sure. I
I
understand
definitely
that.
still respect them both, but I think
Yeah,
that's
but like, yeah, right.
I don't advocate for violence when it's not necessary.
No, I also don't advocate for a system that incentivizes companies to profit from the denial or from death. So I also don't appreciate that.
But I think that's a misrepresentation of the insurance agency. Like, they pay out what they're supposed to pay out.
I think it's a very broken system, ultimately. I think the more you look into it, it can be a very broken, corrupt system. And these people are incentivized, and doctors are incentivized to withhold care and to save these companies monies, because it pays the doctors too to do that. They're financially incentivized to do that.
I think you're misunderstanding the changes that were made, like under Obama, where he really did protect people with pre-existing conditions. Like, people with pre-existing conditions cost a lot of money to take care of. Why our healthcare system is broken. But with a free market, you would make them pay based on how much they bring up in bills. But Obama basically outlawed that and said that these insurance companies have to keep the people with pre-existing conditions on their plans who are racking up these massive fucking bills. And that's where I think people hear about the claims getting denied. The reason why some claims get denied is because there are people on your insurance plan who are racking up insane amounts of money. And maybe that claim that got denied is somewhere where you racking up a massive amount of money. And that's the thing, like I did mention before, is that these healthcare plans have to balance out. They can't lose money. And does the company overall make billions of dollars in profit? Yes, but that's off providing health insurance to like over 10 million people probably. They're not making that many thousands of dollars per year per customer.
Yeah.
And the amount that they pay out is insane. Like, I heard it costs $50,000 to have a baby now. Like, that's going to be more than you pay in health premiums, like, for most of your life. And yet,
Jesus Christ.
yeah, and yet it costs like 50. This guy was saying that he moved to Thailand and he had a baby born in Thailand, and it was like $3,000. And he said he had it at one of the nicest hospitals. And I bet no nurses had attitudes there either. Like, it's not like the bureaucratic United States.
Right. Like, it shouldn't be like
the
that.
healthcare actually cares about you. Imagine that. Like, you go to American hospital, and one thing that's really bad about American hospitals is you can't even talk to a doctor. Like, your loved one is about to get surgery and about to remove an organ, and you want to ask a doctor a question, and they're gone. And it's like, well, where's the doctor? And like, oh, he's in some other room you can't go to. Like, why? And then it's like, well,
I've always had a chance to ask questions when my mom was having surgeries.
Well,
hospitals have made a lot of decisions that I have not agreed with, but before surgeries, I've always been able to talk to a doctor if I was there.
No, I'm just saying when you walk in to visit them when they're sick, not just like right before surgery. Yeah, like a doctor should always be available to a hospital to talk to and ask questions to. But if you try to find out, basically they're like, well, they do a morning round. It's like, what? So if I wait here between the hours of like 4 a.m. and like 7 a.m., I can run into them.
I mean, no, assume these are busy people, right?
No, not busy people.
Okay, and they might be literally in surgeries.
No, these are not surgeons. They're just no.
Physicians?
Surgeons are other guys. Yeah, they're just physicians on the floor. And there should always be a doctor assigned to every floor, but good luck ever finding them. They're never available, even though they're at the hospital somewhere. Don't tell me that they're that busy. They have tons of assistants and shit. So yeah, no. But that none of that is Luigi and United Healthcare's fault. Like, how they run the hospitals isn't up to the insurance companies. Hospitals are their own things. And the healthcare system's fucked up in America, but it could be solved by good entrepreneurs. Maybe somebody like Elon Musk gets into healthcare and starts
more efficient. There should be, I don't know. I just thought there would be a greater sanctity on life. With all this technology and advancements, that's how we be a little bit better at it. That's all.
I mean, I hear about people on insurance getting stuff done all the time. I don't think most people get that many denied claims.
What does Christianity have to say about people that rise through the world doing terrible things? Like, what is that? Just ultimately they'll be decided upon at end of life and go to hell? Or if they're a believer, they get to go to heaven anyways just because they were a believer and did awful things?
There's a judgment day, right? I thought that's what, when you get up there, there's kind of you're judged. There's judgment up there, and then so if you've done maybe too many heinous things, I imagine, no matter, even if you do believe in God, you'll still be sent to hell.
No, that's not how Christianity believes it.
Really?
Yeah. No.
Christianity, like the guy who's on the cross for murder right next to Jesus, was able to repent and go to heaven even at his last minute.
Okay.
But it's harder for somebody who's done evil stuff to truly repent. That's the thing. It has to be like totally genuine. So if you have done a bunch of murders, then you're going to have, like they say, it's harder for a camel to pass through, the eye of a needle than it is for like a unregretful sinner to like enter heaven. Like you have to like genuinely believe it in order to enter heaven.
I see.
But also, like, it just looks down upon sinning. But I know you were, I guess, trying to infer that the CEO got to the top by doing bad things. I don't believe that, but
No, that's not what I was trying to insinuate. I'm saying that I feel like a lot of the people that I've been watching lately on Rumble that know about the deep, dark depths of the world, like all of the
or claim
child
to.
rape that it seems pretty fucking real to me. Seems like there's massive networks of very, very high up people that, I mean, look at the guy that Patrick Bet David had his interview with, who was a sex slave for David Rockefeller, and David Rockefeller asked Evelyn Rothschild if she could put on a performance at like 11 years old, a sexualized performance for a room full of rich pedophiles, most likely. And I was like, "Yep, bring this one in. She looks like a good one. Well, we'll teach her." This is what they actually did for her own story. They taught her to identify the things that would really get a guy off, and the way that they did it, in part, was by oh shit. It was some sort of literal abuse if she got it wrong. Like they would show her a picture of a guy and ask what they thought she was into, and then like slap the shit out of her. And like especially at that young of an age, she would start to become able to just inherently know what a guy's sick, twisted fantasies were going to be, and make sure that she could put out well as a young little sex slave.
How do you know that this girl isn't just trying to sue David Rothschild and is just making all this shit
She
up because he's got money?
Evelyn Rothschild is dead.
Oh.
David Rockefeller is dead. She
David
wouldn't say
Rockefeller.
names of anybody who was alive.
So she has no personal litigation
No.
against any of these people, because I would definitely be curious
Anyone who's
to know.
alive, she's too scared because she's gonna get killed.
Yeah.
She's been hurt by people who are alive. She's just too scared to even say their names. The only people she's even willing to say their names or speak of are dead, who can't do anything back, hopefully.
I'm not saying all celebrities are perfect, but I don't think we've had much credible evidence yet that most celebrities or politicians have really done anything about
Epstein Island? Yeah, we have
No,
no
Epstein
credible
Island,
evidence.
what? You're basing all these things off names that somebody on social media said were in a dossier that you've never seen and has never been released. That's the entire Epstein Island list. That's what it is.
I'm not.
Parties.
I don't have to know who's on the list. I have to know that there is a list. That's what
But
I need
you don't
to
even
know.
know that there is a list. That's still speculation.
There's parties that Diddy threw when there was children at. How many people rubbed shoulders with Diddy? The Obamas. Just name two.
I
Big
mean,
Mike,
rubbing
and
shoulders.
Barack.
Rubbing shoulders is only going so far. But
no, attending parties. Attending parties. What were his parties? Yeah. How late did they stay? You can't confirm that. You can't confirm what happened at Diddy's parties. We know what certain things took place now. There were children there. Children that were being abused. Horrible. People were also filming to also implicit these people.
Allegedly.
Implicate these people. Allegedly there was film. But I imagine he did that to cover his ass. I mean, if you're going to have those kind of things with these people, you'd smartly do that.
But how do we know?
Dumb.
How do we know that the only reason why this stuff wasn't even released, though, is that it's all part of a bigger psyop? Maybe it's just more stuff to divide people. Pit the people who care against the people who don't.
Folks like
if we were really smart, we would be against them for all this shit, but we're too stupid looking at aliens to fucking pay attention to it.
I would believe that anything is a psyop.
I'm gonna tell you what I'm pretty damn sure is correct. Folks like Christopher Wray, the director of the FBI, do not want it to come out because it's going to lead back to them. They're the ones with the control to not let it out.
Yep.
The FBI went in, covered it up, took all of the film, never showed it to anybody, will not show it to anybody. They're asked questions about it. They're like, I don't have specific memory of what you're asking me. We're looking into that. It's an ongoing investigation. Sir, it's been 11 years. It's an ongoing investigation.
And the U.S. is one of the largest fucking procurers of child trafficking as a whole. And so who do you think is doing that? The richest influential people. That's who.
Yep.
Yes, it's pretty awful.
Where I was going with that was the people that I'm watching on Rumble who are very religious, and it feels to me like a coping mechanism for how to know that there is shit like this that goes on in real life from people that are so much more militarily and financially capable than you. Like that they're coming from a place where they have essentially no power. And I think that God makes them feel like they have some power. Like if enough people are good, we'll overtake it. We'll be able to
Yeah.
come back through strength. Which honestly, that's the reality of the situation. So
Just the idea of that. So yeah, we can act on that. The idea of good and God, and enough people can believe in just good. We can hopefully, get rid of some of that fucking evil that's in control and
Well,
in power.
I think going along with the Christmas theme is we could kind of do like a Scrooge kind of a thing of like It's a Wonderful Life. Like, if you've never been born, what would the earth, what would the earth be like? What do you want your ripple to be?
Okay,
yep.
what do you mean by that?
Just like, well, either you were born or you weren't born. Is the world exactly the same both ways, or is there's something different? Do you want there to be something different?
Yeah. On the scale from NPC to main character, where are you at right
Yeah,
now?
from like NPC to Genghis Khan, where do you want to be on the spectrum?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know. I don't really worry too much. I mean, I'd like to have kids.
I think that's where most people fall. I
That
want
at
to make a
least qualifies
splash.
you as NPC. If you don't have kids, you're not even NPC.
Yeah.
Not in the
I'd like to
grand scheme of things.
leave one strong male behind, so there's at least another strong male to continue forward. At
Yeah.
least, I think that'd be important.
It would suck to have your bloodline end with you, I think.
Yeah. I think like on a grander scale, if I could do any kind of blow to Jewish supremacy, that'd be pretty cool. But who knows?
That might be a whim of today. Who knows if that will continue into the years forward. Years past, what would your answer have been? Because mine's changed a bit.
Years past, I would have preferred to have been forgotten.
Yeah,
Really?
that's true. Pretty much your own words.
Yeah.
Wild.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't want the pressure. I don't like the expectation.
That's probably relatable for a lot of young people at the moment, young adults.
Yeah, I can't blame them, honestly. But
apparently not if you've been there.
You want some kind of legacy. You should at least strive for a family. I like the family I was raised in. I think replicating that would be cool. Living vicariously through a child sounds pretty cool, like a little mini you. That sounds pretty sweet.
Sometime not too long after I could drive, after I had my license, I had something that I would call close to like a quarter life crisis. I don't know, kind of early, where I was like, what the fuck do I want? Like, I feel like I'm heading down a very average life. And do I want a white picket fence and a family, or do I want to do something? And ever since then, I've wanted to make a splash. I don't know exactly how it's gonna settle out, but the
A splash.
averageness of what most people do in life just kind of doesn't
Scares
sit
you.
well with me. Yeah, I'm very, very unsettled by that idea of that being me.
So you want a splat? What does that mean? A splash, like a
I don't
Luigi
know.
splash, or like a?
No, I was almost a wild
Splash.
climate rebel for a while. Who knows what I would have done if
That's how I met him.
That's right.
that path had continued. But
he had swallowed up all the climate change.
I think through that you had put a little too much trust in the lowest of class of people.
No, my trust was in the science. I was pretty down deep on the science rabbit hole. But no, at this point, I think that it's more so just that the incentives are fucked and they only fund people that do climate studies that show that there is climate change. And so through a very, very simple mechanism, they can make it incredibly one-sided.
Yeah.
And shut down anyone who challenges them. Like, you have no studies. Like, well, no, we don't. You won't give us any money.
That was like pretty much my argument too. It was like, well, where is the anything from a reputable source that shows that your side has any credibility? And then they're all leaning this way, bro. What?
And that's kind of the way it is now with anti-Christianity, where it's like there's no proof that there's God, and we're all just going to lean this way, and y'all are idiots. And that's kind of the dangerous path that we're headed towards, is like, well, there's nothing replacing it good right now. There's girls.
People just get obsessed with like social media.
And I would kind of like to kind of get back a little bit to what you said though about sleeping with 100 people in one day. Should it even be legal? I think it's kind of part of the bubble law, is that like what you do affects other people's bubbles if it's not in the privacy of your own house. So if you're not doing something good for society, then it should probably be in the privacy of your own house. So and not marketing on social media.
You can't have sex in public.
Yeah, exactly. And it should just be,
and like, yeah, you don't have access to the video, but little girls are still knowing about this happening. There's still headlines about it. Like, I'm still seeing interviews with this girl on Twitter. You know what I mean? It's definitely, that's probably and maybe into Instagram and TikTok. I don't have TikTok, but I imagine videos or clips of her from that interview of her like crying have probably made its way on there. So like, this is known with young. Oh God, I don't want to know how young people know about this shit.
And maybe that's the right way with society to protect society while still having individual rights. Is maybe like, pornography should be legal on the internet, but you have to be at least 18 to
age verified.
Age verified.
Wasn't it just recently banned in Florida because, like, what? They didn't want to have it age restricted? Like, why is that such a bad thing? Like,
yeah, exactly.
You should have to like put in your fucking like
driver's license number or something.
Yeah, like have to put your name in. Because then there's some embarrassment in it too.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Oh man, they know it's me and everything. You don't get to just put in like, oh fucking John Jones. Like, no, you have to put in you, like your address, your little number for identity.
Yeah, that would definitely make you feel.
Do the whole shebang.
It's
still
like
access the site,
and maybe somebody would just say it's not worth it at that point, and then just go out and find a girl.
Yeah.
And I think, and then also, but no public advertising.
Imagine just trying to stay hard when you're getting your wallet out, getting your ID card. That's a good de-incentivizer. I like that a lot.
And then still, in order to protect society, I don't think you should be able to do no radio ads, no newspaper ads, no Lion's Den. You don't need a fucking store where you can go and buy DVDs.
I imagine degenerate places like that will do just fine without advertisements. The people that know what they want they'll just go on their own accord. They don't need
just buy it online.
Incentivification. Yeah, they probably buy it online. Yeah. The embarrassment of it. I can't imagine people want to go to those places physically.
But see, when you have those places and a kid drives by. But I'm saying, if you have a place like the Lion's Den, the kid drives by and the kid's like, "Ooh, lion, mommy and daddy, what's this place?" And then mommy and daddy has to try to explain to their kid that this is a store full of fucking BDSM accessories.
Or you just say it's an adult store, you just keep driving.
No, but the fact that you even, what's an adult store? Like, kids have a million questions.
Yeah, but like, I mean, my parents are a lot better at it. It's like, it's an adult. It's like, my dad's like, it's a store not for you. That was the end of it.
I mean, curiosity killed the cats, though. I was a curious kid. I didn't like to be told I couldn't know something.
Me too.
So that's why I'm saying maybe it's better to protect society. Yeah. Just leave the gross stuff not advertised. Like, you can go and find it if you have to, but not advertised and not public. And if she wants to sleep with 100 men, we don't hear about it.
I wonder if there's even sex shops in Saudi Arabia. Probably not. It's probably only online.
I wouldn't think there'd be sex shops.
Nope. No.
If there is, I'd be
sad. Because they don't want a family to walk by it.
Yeah,
literally
exactly.
Because of that.
Be part of the neighborhood.
They're too scared. They don't even want a child to walk by and see it. It's haram. They don't even want to see it.
But at that point, I'd have to say the same thing about strip clubs. Like, what good do strip clubs do for a society?
If you just know, if there's a building that has a black sign, that you just know, like, okay, that's either a sex store or a strip club. That's how we'd have in society, I guess, wouldn't we?
But really, what does it give to society? Why not?
It's an influx of the economy. But these things are always bustling, and if you don't want these things on the fringes and done illegally because it's more gross, done illegally.
I mean, what if somebody has a party and they charge $50 at the door and they get free alcohol and they're strippers? At least nobody knows about that. It's not being advertised. It's not a public place where people drive by and see it.
It's a lot closer. Yeah,
like I'm all for government deregulation. I'm down for.
You're right.
You know, you could
maybe those kind of specific things, anyways, shouldn't be done. Like putting
you don't need a physical established strip joint.
You're right.
I don't think that does any good for society.
The whole point is it's an intimate act. Intimate. To put it in establishment is taking intimacy out of it entirely, and that's an issue in itself too.
Yeah. Maybe
these intimate acts are no longer so intimate. They're advertised. That's not intimate.
If you paid for it one-on-one and you paid for a girl to strip in front of you in a private room, that's at least intimate.
And this is
not perfect.
This is how it's lessened. It's not as sacred and precious And even then, that kind of lessons in society when these things aren't as hard earned. That should be more important.
And also
it's
you
not
get,
readily available.
you get rid
can't
of
just type in an ad
yeah.
and go to a website and then see the most beautiful women ever. You have to kind of earn that.
Yeah.
That's
you have to know somebody.
You have to earn to see a girl's titties.
You have to know somebody who's hosting one of these parties.
Yeah.
They can't advertise. The only way to know about it is word of mouth.
Yeah, and then hopefully you're raised around good enough people where you're just not around that kind of stuff at all.
But I think that's how you have the two societies protected, where like you let people live free lives, but you also let society develop healthily to where more people want to live healthy lives. It's not that you necessarily, maybe outlaw gender transitions for adults or something, but you make it so that nobody wants them, and you make it so that they can't talk about them. Like if that's something
if you can't talk about them, you're probably not going to want them. You're probably not even going to consider that this is a possibility.
But if you're 18 and you're looking into it and you're after that point, fine.
Dude, if you're 4 and you hear about it, then every 4-year-old has a wild imagination. That's a terrible time to hear about that.
Yeah.
And I'm
like, how does your mind not go there? And then that could be a trope that sticks in their head, a loop that recurs with them until.
Did I hear about some kind of horrible thing online and went looking and then later regretted it?
Yeah, you hear about like 2 girls in a cup or something, and it's like, well, what's that?
Yeah,
it's
what
like,
are 2 girls in this cup doing? And oh my God, what a horrible mistake that was.
I
never watched that one. Glad that I didn't.
Both you both. I was fucking young. God, that was like a middle school one too. Man, you don't even want to know why, but I didn't eat soft serve ice cream for a fucking month. Thank God you guys did not watch it. Lord.
A lot of people at my school did. I definitely heard about it. It was
I was
a
shown
thing
that
for
one.
sure.
I was shown it. That one I was unfortunately shown it. Someone had just come in and said, "Have you guys seen it?" And we said, "No. What is it?"
Oh.
Damn.
Yeah. We grew up in an odd time where like the internet was new and like
very new.
You hear about things on the internet. It's like, whoa, there's a thing on the internet. What's that about? And
yeah.
Like, the internet is a little less wild nowadays than it used to be.
Supposedly, I don't know about all this dark web stuff, but supposedly it is.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've also seen not too long ago. I mean, some of our viewers will at least hear of this video before because it's become so popular. Funky Town.
Funky Town. I only know the song.
If you go to that song on YouTube and look at the comments, they're all referring to a specific video because that song was playing in the background.
Mm.
And that was probably the worst video personally I've ever seen to this day.
Oof.
Man with no face and no hands reaching for his face. That was like.
Oh man.
No face, and he was alive. Like apparently he was up on amphetamines. So the video is about almost 4 minutes long, and you do not see this man die. It's just a video of struggling and immense bleeding. It's horrible.
Wow.
We'll see, and that's why
the worst video I've ever seen in my entire life, hands down. But the only one I could, since I've heard that would be worse, was that supposed frazzle drip. That was like, oh my God, I don't even want to go looking for that one. I don't even want to. I don't want to tell Matt to go looking because he's so good at finding them.
Ah, yeah, Matt would be the person.
I heard about Funky Town, and he found that one in a fucking second. I was like, holy shit! Oh my God! That one kept me. I was like gonna go to bed, and that one like kept me up for like another 3 hours. Like, fuck.
Yeah, I don't even know where like my line is anymore because watching that person burn to death today, like that's pretty crazy.
That was, but that wasn't horrible. No, nearly as bad as half the things I saw on Twitter. I saw some dude just shoot his neighbors from like fucking snow on the driveway, and, like walk inside and grab a bigger gun and come out and finish him off. Like that was horrible.
Damn.
Yeah.
Yeah, X is a pretty unregulated place. If you want to look for bad stuff, there's bad stuff. But
and then Instagram honestly has pretty much any sort of mangling as well.
Instagram is almost as bad, but I have seen a whole lot worse on X. A whole lot worse. Explicitly.
Well, keeping Christ in Christmas.
Yes.
You wouldn't want to look at this stuff. It's sinful, and you shouldn't be searching for it.
You're absolutely right. It's not good for the brain.
The problem, though, I think with the algorithms, though, is that like it shows you more of what you look at. So if there's something you don't want to see, but you're really curious, and your morbid curiosity makes you open it, then it starts showing you more of that because it's trying to get you hooked on content that you engage with. And that, I wish I could just switch the algorithm to like, no, push like tech and science and stuff that I actually like can learn and whatever is like healthier for you to interact with. But
Yeah.
instead, it's just like whatever get your attention
For that
you should get
morbid
shown more of.
curiosity reason. Yeah, that's a good. Yeah, that's a good phrase.
I low key think that it's valuable to know how the whole real world works, and without seeing things that genuinely happen in the real world, you aren't going to properly prepare yourself for it. Do you want to
Well,
end up
that's
being the person that gets shot in the driveway and having absolutely no defenses because you never thought that something like that was possible? I grew up in a small town where it's very safe and nothing like that ever felt possible. But out there in the real world, apparently I gotta like be able to
Hey,
defend
wait a
myself.
second. Hold on. That
Wow,
small
what an
town,
idea.
that safe small town can be the real world, motherfucker.
It can be.
Isolated is not. Yeah, I mean, big city is one thing, but there are safe places where you can be safe, and those kind of crazy things just don't happen. But unfortunately,
well, I think people like generally in communities like he's talking about, people know each other. They're a little more cool-headed with how they treat each other because you actually know each other. Like, you know, it's kind of
things still happen, though. I mean,
things still not like murders though. I think he
Yeah,
said in his
yeah,
small,
I bet things
No,
still
there
happen.
there's never been a murder in Bryan. There
Wow.
have been murders in smaller towns nearby, so it's not like it's just. But as far as that particular town goes, there had literally never been one.
Wow.
yeah, people can live in harmony.
Yeah, they
I
can.
think you have like a little
It's not
more.
necessarily harmony. There's
But
still druggies just walking
sure.
around, but
Well,
like
it's harmony in the sense that there's no murders. That says a lot.
Yeah,
yeah. It don't really have to be scared of getting punched in the face while you're walking up the street. Like that
No,
just does
no,
not
not
happen
on the
definitely
ever.
not.
It
And if
doesn't.
somebody did start punching you in the face, other people would actually stop and help. They'd be like,
Yeah.
"What the hell?" Like, somebody be pulling a gun up probably on you within 5 minutes of at least of the attacker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's a small town. Like, you know, it's like the definition of fuck around and find out. Don't try this in a small town. Some blew up because basically like the rioters is like they wouldn't have rioted in small towns. Like,
I am on 2%, so at some point I'm gonna just disappear, guys. Just keep in mind.
that's all right. We'll
bro.
reset the tablet here and we can wrap it up soon. But
I have a big question for you guys. What are on the religious topic? What do you think happens after death?
oh, that's a good one.
Energy is created; it cannot be destroyed. It's transferred. But I really do hope for that just black void. God, I want that more than anything. What about you? No,
Yeah,
the black void. Yeah, I would like the black void, please.
all right.
The black void would be like unnoticeable though. Your life would just end.
Yeah, that please.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right.
What about
Adam?
you?
I think I would have agreed with Dakota most of my life that that's what happens, but I did have an experience one time that made me feel like there might kind of be like, it's not quite like parallel dimensions, but it's something close. It's like there's some, like things might be connected on a stream of sorts. And I also think there might be something special about like, why is it that you don't remember being like 1 and 2 and 3 years old? You were still alive, you still had a brain, and yet your existence never lasted from one day to the next in the sense that you could remember anything that happened before.
It was like one day your conscience just kind of
one day your conscience just clicks on and all of a sudden you're alive.
And you start making memories.
Yeah, you start making memories, but what was it before then? And I think maybe there's something about once you have a body that can record memories, then you gain like a new level of consciousness that might be able to last after your body dies. Because maybe it's like there was always this thing there was always this thing going. What, you don't already have a charger there?
I think it's up here. I thought it was downstairs.
It's plugged into your phone.
The iPad has a different plug. Just keep talking.
Oh, okay. Anyhow, I think that maybe this consciousness was like a thing that maybe became quantumly entangled with like your brain once it was like physically there, but maybe somehow it exists before your brain, because you know, like string theory, all particles are strings and stuff. It's definitely possible. So then after you die, I definitely don't think like you become a ghost and you just like float around and have the same existence as before. I think if there's an afterlife, I think it's very different. Or maybe it's kind of closer to like reincarnation, and maybe one day you can be like integrated into something new that's alive. I'm not an expert. I definitely can see where Dakota's coming from, that like it could just be nothing. I mean, of course, with you know the culture, the Christianity side of it is that there's a heaven, and you know I definitely hope that that's true. But you know I don't think that that's really the outcome that seems
that would
to
be
have,
cool,
like, the
but
most...
on clouds with golden gates, and I don't know how. I don't know.
Yeah, it seems like a tough order. It's definitely hopefully that's the case. And you do get to see all your relatives that died and stuff like that. It's a little confusing exactly how the logistics will work, what age you'd be. Do you have an age? Do you have a gender? How does it work?
I don't. Yeah, I don't.
Yeah, the Christianity heavens.
We're
little
mammals.
mirror,
Like,
yeah.
would it be other monkeys? Would there be? I don't.
In the Christianity heaven, there's like no like sex in heaven. There's no like reproduction. You're just like exist in the same state forever and worship God essentially. So
Is it described in the Bible?
Yeah, it's pretty much the gist of it. Yeah.
I thought that it was supposed to be like majestic palaces and shit.
I think that's more of like Hollywood.
Ah.
Yeah, not really quite. I mean, it's supposed to be nice, but yeah, I think Hollywood has changed what you think of heaven like a lot, just based on what sells or looks cool.
Yeah. So then in the Christian heaven, the people that just exist there also casually come back down to serve as guardian angels from time to time?
No,
They're
angels are a
omniscient as
separate.
well, so they can
Angels
be
are
a
a separate
guardian
race.
angel while. Oh, interesting.
Yeah, they don't ever interact with humans as far as humans being angels or angels being humans.
Yeah, remember that thing we saw in the sky of New Jersey, all doing this? That's what they look like. Remember?
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Levi? What do you think?
Yeah,
happens when
Levi.
you
What
die?
do you think? Reincarnation.
I lean towards the black void.
Hey, I'm not alone.
No, I definitely. I don't see a whole lot of reason that after I die, there's going to be anything different than before I was born. My energy will go back into something that could be like. I think that there's a chance that the universe itself has consciousness and is trying to explore like everything that could happen. I'm a big proponent of the multiverse. I think that the universe is constantly fracturing into parallel universes at pretty much all times to explore all the timelines. I think what Elon says from time to time that the universe tends towards the most interesting might actually be kind of the case, and that it's trying to explore wild timelines where there's tyrants and people have the chance to be heroes. Like that seems interesting. There might be more dimensions. Maybe I can make my consciousness last longer if I'm able to escape into other dimensions and get out of my body, but that would probably be more of like a me having skills than a just like you died, congratulations, enter new realm of reality.
How about this? This is not very religious, but if you died and they froze your brain and then they get it running like 20 years later, do you think that's still going to be you or that you dead?
Close enough to me that I would prefer to have that over no others.
But do you think it would just be like you fall asleep
Yeah,
and
like,
you fall
yeah.
asleep and wake up in 20 years, or you never wake
Would
up?
your consciousness return? Is consciousness
I
just
don't.
brain function?
Yeah, that's
I'm a
is
completely
consciousness
different
just brain
person.
function?
Yeah, I'm a completely
Yeah.
different person now than I was 10 years ago.
Right,
I
no,
have
so when you
no
lose and
problem
your
with
brain
being.
completely dies and somehow they get it back
No,
right.
you don't lose all your neurons from 10 years ago.
Okay.
Brain neurons last a lifetime, some of them.
Some of them.
No,
Yeah.
you pretty much completely get
Pretty
replaced
sure-
every
I
7
don't think
years.
so. I think that's not entirely true. I think it's that like it's like on average or something, but some types of brain cells
No,
last a lot longer.
I don't. Maybe. I'm happy to be fact checked on this, but I don't think that any cells in your body stick around for more than 7 years.
That's my dad always
Some
tries
like
to play this.
your skin cells only last like weeks once they reach maturity.
Yes, some types of brain cells, particularly neurons, can last a lifetime. That's why the dangerous thing about like huffing gasoline and stuff like that is you cause permanent brain damage, oxygen deprivation. You can cause permanent brain damage. Like you don't just get everything refreshed every 7
there's
years.
permanent brain damage. You can put holes in your brain, frontal lobe. I don't think you can fix that, bro.
Oh, you're saying like you get shot in the head and then you're just fine later?
No, like huffing shit.
Oh,
Put
huffing
holes
paint
in your
is-
fucking
I
frontal
don't know if
lobe.
it puts holes in your lobe.
But over
definitely
time it
kills
will.
off- well, maybe so on a big enough scale.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, enough of it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Stupid.
Well, I guess don't do that.
Yeah, well,
Stem
that's one of
cells
the
might be able to
problems.
repair some damage.
It's
if
like warning
nothing
kids,
else.
don't use whippets. Like whippets deprive your brain of oxygen if you're breathing in and out of the same balloon. It's terrible that we're at that part of that, but I think that's really the nihilism and like I think the thing that we really need to be able to fix. And I don't think that like fighting the Republican Democrat battle is going to get us to where we need to get culturally. Like we need to be able to outreach to be able to build a healthy society. And I think honestly, it might just start with like micro communities. We might just need more people to go live in tiny houses in the woods. I'm not sure that like it's
Get
gonna be
reconnected
easy
with
to-
nature, reconnected
Yeah.
with God.
I'm not sure that.
And live in a small community where you can know everybody.
Yeah, exactly.
It needs to be cool to like not be on your phone.
Yeah,
it needs to be cool.
Like that's looked down upon, like taboo. Like, why are
be
you
like an actual kid again and play,
get in the dirt?
Yeah, like
eat mud.
Yeah,
start a conversation with someone new instead of refusing to make eye contact with anybody.
Yeah,
there's communities in this country where
people don't want to have hard conversations. Like talking about God, it's hard because we know there's a lot of stuff where we just don't know. You know what I mean? Like from either side, there's gonna be a lot of some like dead end parts, but like, hey, still an important conversation to have.
Well, I think an important thing we need to have as a community is like we have communities in the United States where it's like considered strange to walk up to somebody you don't know and talk to them. Like you just walk up, oh hey, hi, how's it going? Like it's really weird. Or you're just like, who the fuck are you? Why are you talking to me? Like we don't need societies like that. We need to be able to create societies that feel like welcome and open, and people actually are willing to hear each other out. And that's not what Facebook is. That's for sure.
Yeah. That's what kids on a playground do.
True.
I think people lose a lot of their childness as they grow up. They become pigeonholed or put in a box.
Yeah, but kids have a much lower standard for what they want as friends. When you get older, you sort of have, you get little standards, right? You don't want a complete moron for a friend. You don't want a disloyal person or.
Here's a problem I think with schools is a really huge one is that after a certain age point, you should be able to like pick your own like classes as far as like you should be able to stay in all the same classes as your friends. But friend groups get artificially broken up by like middle school because once you go to middle school, they just shred your schedule and dump everyone in different your friends will be taking the same courses as you and have the same schedule as you, but it's with different teachers. And like I don't think that that's a good way to help maintain lifelong relationships. Like you can shift the other kids in the class so you're going to meet new people, but I think kids should be able to choose their own teacher or whatever so that they can all have the same teacher as their friends.
Well, you still need to be able to have to learn certain things.
Well, I'm not saying you don't have to learn, but I don't think that school should actively try to break up friend groups by forcing you to take certain classes. But a lot of that might just become less of an issue as you go to a smaller scale. If you do have these smaller communities, the schools are just going to be smaller enough that you probably run into less isolation problems and stuff. But the whole system design now is like it does destroy like lifelong friends because you make good friends in elementary school and then middle school just shreds that, and then high school can shred it even more because of districts, and there can be multiple high schools that your friends go to, multiple middle schools that your friends go to, and then college, everyone goes to a different college. So it's not people need friends, and I don't think that, and also with high job turnover rate, like there's a lot of things.
Is your church not a good way to make friends? That's outside of school.
Church is definitely a good thing, and it's also more stable because you can go to it as a youth group as a kid and stay in that same church your whole lifetime. So that's I think an important thing. I really think that atheists need to start making churches. Like they don't have to be based around atheism teachings, but they do really need to like have a group that they meet up with on a regular, like a weekly basis, so their kids can make friends with their other kids, and they need.
Yeah.
And they can do potlucks instead of sermons, like there's definitely do a bowling night where you rent out the whole bowling alley and your entire church goes there or your entire atheist group goes there or whatever. But
I don't know, but there was I think it's important that like, man, those regroups every time the church gets back, you don't want to have like, people talk. If you're not there, people are going to be talking about it and asking why. There's that kind of like even that underlying sense of shame we're talking about. It's not even openly discussed, but it's underlying. Point. You know what I mean? It's there. Those weekly meetings, you want to have things to talk about. You don't want to show. You know what I mean? It's like it's what almost like keeps you going. It's one of those an underlying motivation almost too.
What's an interesting thing that happened to you this week? If you meet up with your church friends and you're talking to them and stuff,
True.
You
don't want to go and have to talk about your problems. You don't want to go without, your girlfriend this week, or you know what I mean? You want to keep it.
You want to go in a coat with holes in it.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah. No, you do get an aspect of that shame introduced with the church on meeting on a regular basis. So, but see, that's the thing for people like us who aren't super religious. There's no like church that we can go to. Like all the churches are really about Christianity and the Bible. So I think there kind of needs to be maybe like some cultural Christian churches that are just as welcoming to agnostics as they are.
Same with Islam.
Christians. And to cultural Islamists or whatever.
100%.
Anyone who doesn't want to like shove your religion on you, that's not what they're there for. They're just there for the community.
Yeah, to be better people, to have a community there.
Well, I guess under the IRS code, we should call them churches because apparently if you're a church, you're like a nonprofit without applying for it. So I think we should probably start a church.
Hey, maybe.
Maybe.
I was hearing a thing, listening to an episode recommended by iHeart about micronations, and it's funny. All these people get together, and it's like LARPing. Like it's none of it's real.
Did you ever go to church growing up, Levi?
Yeah, I went a few times with friends or family, but never
Christian
consistently.
churches?
Yeah.
Right. Did you ever? Was there ever a moment when you were like, "All right, I'm gonna give this a shot. I'm gonna crack this Bible open, and I'm gonna really try, give it an honest go."
Not
I'm
really.
gonna get on my knees at night tonight, and I'm gonna try to pray.
There was a time after I met somebody in New Hampshire whom I sold solar to. She was an older lady, and she had some stories that were unlike any stories that I've ever heard anybody else say. And I talked to this lady for like at least 7 hours over the course of 2 days. I spent a lot of time there, and
Did you make the sale?
yeah, I did actually. I didn't
Wow,
get any
okay.
commission for it, so that's sort of a bitch. But
All right. Anyways,
her stories, she was so rational and so like well-minded on basically everything that we talked about that I couldn't discount her stories. And she said that she's had so many things like this happen to her. I only remember two specifically at this point. Uh, One of them was that she was on uh she's a college university teacher, and she was on a trip with like younger kids to a foreign country, like say Panama. I don't remember exactly where. Someplace where there's like those chicken buses that ride up with a whole bunch of people on them, really tiny roads. And they were winding their way up to the top of a mountain. It was a path that was basically big enough for a car, and there happened to be two coming down. Well, one going up and one coming down, and like everybody tried to get to the end of the edge of the path. She was at a part where it was particularly narrow, and basically everybody that was with her said they saw her get hit by the vehicle, and she like saw bright light or something, and then well, just like had no real memory of the moment where the truck should have been where she was, and just chilling perfectly fine, not a scratch on her. That was one. And she said that she was with family, so there was a whole like all of the classmates, everybody that was on that trip saw that. They claimed that she got hit by a fucking truck. Then
so
there's
these
a different
women's
one.
stories were compelling to you.
They were compelling to me because it was not just her. They all had other people that could step in. One was she was
According
with
to
her husband and other
Oh.
people. Her husband's brother was he had a major cancer, like a tumor that was actually visible. Like you know, when dogs have those knots that like poke out of their skin. And he was in
Yes.
bad shape from it. It seemed like he was on his deathbed, and they went and prayed around him as a family and visually watched his tumor shrink to like where it disappeared.
Well,
And
okay.
the husband was able to say like stand there and be like, yeah, that happened. Like I was in the room and this shit happened. Like I just watched it melt away with my own two eyes. And something about this lady Donna, like these things seem to follow her. So maybe there's some way that she has slipped into an ability to access alternate dimensions and like can do some crazy shit.
Where are
Like
you going now?
I I don't
You are going
know
down.
because
You are going down a tangent now.
it could
people do also
legitimately
see
be
things that
God,
other people don't
but
see, but
Okay,
yeah,
but
she
hey,
yeah,
the tumor just going away,
in front of them.
just praying away the tumor. I mean, that's unheard of.
is it?
Yeah.
I had never
Yep.
heard of it, so it seems
That
pretty
is
unheard
unheard
of.
of. Yeah. I mean, huh.
Well, we definitely got to be getting.
But did that? So those stories, did that have some kind of? So did that lead you down a path or something? Was that the only kind of time you genuinely questioned it?
I at that point I was like, I have no explanation to offer. God, if you're real, make yourself visible to me. Like show me fucking something like this. Still waiting to see it.
Well, could Donna not pull out a trick that time?
It's not like she controls it. It's just happened specifically to her. If she's not in the room, nobody else that's ever seen something that happens with her has seen it with anybody else. It's like, wow, Donna was there and something fucking crazy happened. Completely unexplainable.
I mean, there is one explanation is, just Donna's a liar, I guess.
Yeah.
And Donna's
A
husband loves her
lot of
very
people
much,
with
and it's not
No,
good.
her
I've
on
noticed
multiple
that. Like, with
occasions.
I met somebody once who had an alien abduction, and the people who were with them were like with them, or they didn't have the alien abduction, but they saw the aliens. So it's like just because somebody sees aliens, the other people with them see the aliens too. So I think it's kind of like crazy attracts, and people who do see things,
Or maybe it
are
really
with
did
people who
happen.
see things.
Maybe we're
And I'm
wrong.
not saying the miracle's impossible, but maybe it didn't happen.
But what's the whole remote viewing thing? Do you believe in
I don't
remote
believe
viewing,
it. No.
Dakota?
I don't know, but I know if the CIA is looking into it, they're looking into it for a reason. They shouldn't. They don't. I mean, how
They
they
could
have
just look into it because it's useful. Doesn't mean that it exists, but it's worth researching.
right. Okay, well, perhaps,
Perhaps.
perhaps.
I don't know. It seems to me more and more and more like remote viewing is
It's
not
also
only
like with these
possible, but not
with
even
these
that hard if you have the right type of training for it.
and with these people, like they just kind of come out of nowhere. These fucking almost like sleeper agents. Like that would just kind of make sense to me. Like they go
Yeah.
and fucking implement fucking crazy ideas in these people's dreams. Like talk to them in their dreams. Because what's one underlying consistency with these people is they hear voices. I was told to kill people. I was told, I was heard, and I was told
Yeah.
to kill this motherfucker.
Yeah.
So that could correlate specifically with this whole remote viewing thing. Is to say he uses just these fucking sleeper cell agent assets. They monitor everyone. They know, so let's just know. We know of specific people on the fringes. We know this person recently lost his medication, mixed with he's alone and doesn't talk to anyone online. He's an incel and has these certain views, and he has access to a gun. So with all these certain mixes, we'll go and get in his dream tonight and tell him, you know what I mean? Come on. Is that completely out of a possibility? Do they monitor everyone? Yes. Do they know the medication people take? Yes. Do they know the access that you have to a gun? And the people that are on the fringes and want to kill people, do they monitor them and know the threat they have? Yes. Maybe could they access their dreams and then push them over the edge because they hear voices? Could those voices be from the CIA, just making them an operative?
You know, with your phone, they can know like what when you're deep REMing and stuff like that. They
Right.
can play
Yeah.
voices through your phone and you wouldn't even know it.
Exactly. Who
Yeah.
knows what that can influence in your brain? You know what I
Dead
mean?
ass.
Yeah. Like it
Like,
absolutely.
they don't
And
even
it
have to
doesn't
be
even have to be
entering your
words.
brain. They could do that with regular technology. Just your fucking
Yeah,
phone
just
being
with your
beside your
phone and
bed.
your speaker. And it wouldn't,
Yeah,
it wouldn't even
exactly.
have
So
to
who knows if it's even that simple? They just did it to that fucking kid who took the pot shot at Trump, or to this guy, or to the fucking Vegas shooting. And also, guys, can we please just one episode just entirely devote to that whole Vegas thing? I heard they paved over the fucking bullet holes like very soon after, like a bunch of stuff. Super
Yeah.
weird shit
definitely
about
could
that.
definitely could look into it some more. We should
All
probably
of
get this
that.
one wrapping up, man.
Yeah, we
So,
definitely should. This is getting late.
I think we did.
And
covered
do you guys
everything.
have any more particular thoughts, like on the specifically the religious aspect of things?
Yeah, I just want the homogeny back. I think it's stronger than politics. And this year more than ever, my family was broken apart by political bullshit. And look at that, Christmas can't even bring it back together. It's bullshit, man. But if more of my family were religious, they could put that bullshit aside
Yeah.
and recognize, hey, family comes first. We put a bullshit, all this, whoever voted bullshit aside. We're all a family under God.
Yeah,
And we all care about each
exactly.
other more. And it's only the really religious ones that stuck together. So, or the ones that even have any kind of semblance or sense about religion are the ones that stuck together. So that shows you something.
Yeah.
That's kind of
First-hand
sad.
proof right there.
Yeah,
That is
literally.
sad, but
It's first-hand proof.
I think it's.
So I think that's what this country needs, is just more homogeny. And unfortunately, what's one of the easiest ways to get there? It's through religion. Like, if you have any other like option, I would love to hear them. But like throughout history, is pretty good one is religion.
I mean, we live in a negative birth rate society. What we have is not sustainable. It's a failure. It's just an experiment that won't last.
And one of the things that religion pushes, Christianity and Islam both, is like, yeah, have a family, procreate, have a big, happy, productive family.
People used to hate on Xenos, but they used to have parties where they had the girls
He's right,
interact with
man.
the guys. Like
It,
they were.
that it was
It was designed for you to find a good
designed
quality spouse.
to find a good, exactly, a quality. You're right. You're so right about that. In hindsight, you're right. It was designed to find a
You might
quality
have been trying to
spouse.
exploit it, but that's what it was designed for.
Yeah.
And I think we need some more good quality spouses in America.
And I think, a lot of the things that this country is sorely lacking in, religion advocates for immensely.
It's just an easy solution.
Usually those two that we've been talking about.
And it's also
mainly
tried and
Islam
tested.
and
It's not like
Christianity.
it's like, can Christianity have a successful society? You don't have to guess. It used to work.
Yeah. And then places it still
And then,
does.
yeah, in places it still
Same
does.
with Islam.
Yeah, like the Amish.
Yep.
The Amish are a functioning Christian society. You can't just say the Amish are bad or doing something wrong. When they make their own food, they have their own kids and have a positive birth rate. They still do vaccines, but they do less vaccines than the average population.
Yeah.
So overall, it's like that works. What we have doesn't.
Yep.
And we can say they're backwards and they're the ones without cell phones and the internet. But if they have a sustainable birth rate and we don't, then they have a functioning society and we don't. And we can't just discount that they have something that works. And we shouldn't hate on it either. And look at the Breaking Amish show. They try to make fun of them and like have them break out and become sinners. And it's like, come on, like we don't need to encourage that.
That's just us encouraging degeneracy, like always.
Yeah,
should be the other way. Should be pushing people who are usually degenerates to go be Amish.
Yeah.
I swear.
Yeah, exactly.
The Amish actually have a year of your life where you're allowed to go experiment. Then
I think it depends on
like
the
either
sect.
you return or you don't. And
Ultra Orthodox would not like that.
Yeah, I don't know if I necessarily need to go do a bunch of manual labor and not have my phone to find, just
peace,
values or good morals. But some people could, some women like that girl who recently became famous online for that reason could probably use a little bit of that harshness.
She needs to churn her own butter for a few months. Like, no pun intended. No.
Literally no pun intended. Holy fuck. Yeah. Do you agree with that though? Overall, Levi, what do you feel like? Do you think the country would be better off back under kind of more Christian values, a one nation under God mentality?
I think that it would be interesting to see what a nation that had this level of agnosticism, non-faith would look like if it developed naturally outside of. I feel like it was just intentional.
I think it's becoming
Kinda like
popular again. I think the recent popular
the climate
vote showed
change
that.
seemed intentional. I feel like the push away from religion is intentional, and I don't really understand why. So
you should understand intentional.
Why. Well, there's certain people in charge who are demonic or atheist or whatever you want to call them.
Demonic.
Demonic seems like a good word.
They're demonic. And I used to not think of it either that way so explicitly, but it's kind of hard to hide from that. I mean, it's absolutely demonic.
My parents used to call this stuff demonic, and I just thought it was
exactly
bad people.
Too.
And I'm like,
my grandmother
demons
too.
don't exist. And then you listen to people like Andrew Tate
I 100%
and say, like,
agree.
There's an opposite of everything. With good, there's evil.
Yep.
It's just like yin and yang.
And then you hear the way certain people talk, and then you see what's celebrated in Hollywood and what is allowed. It's like, holy shit, this is actually demonic.
And the fact that Biden commuted the sentences of people who murdered and raped children, it's like, this is demonic.
Pardon his own brother, the islands they go to, it's like, yeah, this is actually demonic place. And even the fact that there's rumors about fucking blood and child rituals,
shit.
Even the fact that these are popular rumors is like, holy shit. Yeah. Where there's smoke, there's fire usually.
Dakota, I think the question you mentioned, that what works better for a society, is a really sound question, because the thing about these religions, Christianity and Islam, for example, is that they've lasted a long time. They've survived the test of time. And they, over thousands of years, you get a pretty good idea of what the inherent evils are in people, because I think that anybody is capable of doing the things that you see happening, these sort of demonic things. I think it's a human thing, but some people wind up in the position where they're doing that, and other people see that and are able to swing to the other side and recalibrate themselves and be like, damn, that's fucked up. I need to make sure I don't do that. If nobody in society ever did that, then it would be really easy to take advantage of people and do things like that. So it seems kind of cyclical, and apparently Christianity and Islam have done a good job of surviving that cycle.
You're right. But like you said, you're raised, hopefully, like we were all raised, hopefully to, think that, raised with values and to think that, we're all equal. But what if you weren't?
Mm-hmm. Oh man, like kids growing up with no father and they don't get raised with
What if you weren't? What if you were raised to believe you were better than everyone else? What if you were raised to believe you were God's chosen people? What then? What if you were raised to believe you can steal from other people that weren't inherently what you are? Or they're lesser than you? Then what kind of rights do you believe you have over them?
But all of
if they're goyim, or if they're cattle, right?
Well, all of that applies.
What if you believe that the land you were there on, that you were then owed arbitrarily thousands of years ago? Makes you do, gives you justification to do all kinds of horrible, vile things. And then over
Even
time,
to
over
a lesser
centuries,
degree, yeah, to a lesser degree of that, the way that it's presenting here in the United States, look at diversity, equity, and inclusion, and critical race theory. Critical race theory is teaching people
All
you
of those things.
are biased. Like people have it out against you. Now look for them, try to lecture them in the middle of society, and show them what's going on. Like look
yeah.
for these biases and tell people they can't have them instead of just naturally letting them go away. But yeah, to a much, much bigger, grander
But
degree, what if
But
there is a
Dakota,
chosen
you're right
people?
that is a bad ideology, and sadly, I think that's one of the things that's hurting the black community the most. Is so many people believe that they are like better than other people and they can steal from other
Or
people.
they're victims too, or they play on the victims. Yep.
And the end result.
And so
is
with
you
because
don't
of a
have
victim, I
respect.
then have a right to then what other people have, whether that be reparations or land that's not theirs.
But also just how they treat each other is resulted in that. Because if you think you're like better than other people,
Yep.
you're pass that on even to people who are the same race as you.
And like you said,
just think that
where
you're better than them.
look where these cultures lead over time, right? Like in first world Christian nations, it unfortunately the faith kind of fails over time. In first world Muslim nation, it seems to thrive. With Jewish faith, it's supremacy and it becomes almost Zionistic. Like you just have to look where it goes
I
over
think
time.
you should actually travel to Israel before you make so many more sweeping
I'm not
statements
kissing that
about
fucking
them.
wall.
You don't have to kiss any wall, but maybe you should see how the people there actually live and think. It might.
I
not
think
be
right
what
now they're
present.
taking shelter because Tel Aviv's being bombed. So they
Tel
need
Aviv
to taste a little
usually,
medicine.
usually stays pretty safe.
Well,
Well,
they penetrated the Iron Dome right now. So
how many casualties have there been in Tel Aviv?
I don't know. We'll
yeah,
see. We'll
probably
see.
not very many at all.
Guess we're gonna find.
No, I think part of the unity and us having a Christianity and a good message is that everybody is welcome, and you.
In Islam too. In Islam too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
everyone is welcome.
Everybody's welcome, the Jews included, and everyone should just treat each other well. I think that's what we should end on.
I agree.
Everyone should treat others the way that you would like.
That is how Christians and Muslims feel. I agree. Yes.
All right. Well, that's
The
a good way to
golden
sign
rule.
off.
All right.
Blue.
Yep. Merry Christmas, everyone.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. And have a happy New Year.
We may have went some dark places, but Merry Christmas.